one way is just make 5 accounts and sign up for ourselves and make Rumble accounts, which is what we will do. So by the end of the week, we'll be on Rumble. You can also check us out on Facebook. Just search Chatterbox Sports. And as always, we are in podcast form on all the major podcast platforms. Just search Off the Bench with Tom Brenneman. And as he would say, you are dialed in. What a weekend of sports. You know, when we have these weekends, I typically think back to COVID for some weird reason and think about how we didn't have any of this. And this weekend was amazing. Where do we start? College basketball seems appropriate. The two powerhouses in which had most of the brackets had penciled in to be into the not only the Final Four but to win the national championship are both out. The Alabama Crimson Tide fell to San Diego State, the Mountain West, as we say around here. And the Houston Cougars, a personal favorite of mine, fell to the ever-so-quick Miami Hurricanes. Oddly enough, Miami and San Diego State, once they beat the number 1 seed, were both underdogs in their Elite Eight to get to the Final Four matchup, and they both won. And did you know who San Diego State's all-time leading assist man is? I'll give you half a second to figure this out. Tony Gwynn. Tony Gwynn with 590. How do you be so talented? Sometimes I wonder about people. Another fun fact, this was the first NCAA tournament in its entire history that all number 1 seeds failed to advance to the Elite Eight. The Muskies, unfortunately for many of our fans and Paul Fritchner, fell short in the Sweet 16 to Texas. Adam Kunkel, though, played his heart out, and I need to give that man some props. 8 for 10 from the field, and he scored a game-high 21 points, and he was ready from the absolute jump. Unfortunately, Sulaim Boom did not play his best, and similar to the rest of the season, if he did not play his best, Xavier did not win the basketball game. But all in all, a great first year under Sean Miller. And the other two teams filling out the Final Four were UConn and, of course, as you came to expect, FAU. Remember the team who was just a simple jump ball call and or timeout call away from being bounced in the first round? That team is in the Final Four. Wild. The Owls. The Owls, Paul. Hit him with it, Paul. Do it.
You don't want to go to war with the Owls. With the Owls. It was just the wrong Owls the whole time. It was always the Owls. It was always the Owls. Just the different Owls.
Beautiful. Paul, that was absolutely grade A on a Monday morning, 10:05.
Absolutely.
Creighton's wondering right now if I am going to bring up that weak foul call that sent them home, and I am, and we'll get into all of that, because I seen Twitter. That Twitter was in an absolute uproar about whether it was a foul, whether it was not, and we'll have some fun talking about that. But outside of March Madness, opening day is approaching, and two of the Reds' biggest prospects in Ellie De La Cruz and Christian Encarnacion Strand will not be playing on their opening day. They have some setbacks. Should we be concerned? Should we not be concerned? We'll get into that a little bit. FC Cincinnati. Can't say I watched the game, but it looks like they haven't been a fluke last year. I like I said before, maybe we'll have our in-house resident, Casey McAllister, talk some football. If we have time, of course. But nonetheless, FCC won 1-0 versus Nashville, and that puts them in a single point out of first place in the Eastern Conference, and I've been told they have not lost a road game outside the playoffs, of course, since last July, I believe. Casey will get into that possibly. For absolutely zero boxing fans outside of myself who watch this show, David Benavidez won in a unanimous decision over Caleb Plant. And now the boxing world begs of one of the biggest fights in the past 10 years with Benavidez fighting Canelo. And that probably won't happen because that's why boxing has zero fans. The Masters, you see the promos. I see the promos. 2 weeks away, Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, off of their good match play performance, are the early favorites at plus 750. Sam Burns won the Dell match play, and if that's of any interest to you, his odds to win the Masters are plus 3,200s. The Bengals still have Joe Mixon, which means it's not safe to open up Bengals Twitter. That place is dangerous, And it's about as dangerous as going to White Castle a night before you have an early important meeting. Now, that's beside the terrible jokes this morning, but seriously, if you haven't been on Twitter lately, just don't go into Twitter in regards to the Bengals Twitter fandom because it's absolutely atrocious. Twitter in general, though, is slowly becoming like the new Facebook. It's similar to a cesspool. But I got to be honest with you guys. I love our numbers growing. I do like when our show has record crowds. But at some point, I have zero interest in talking about the NFL right now. It's brutal to talk about the NFL right now. There's not a whole lot going on. We've beat that dead horse. And if you are if you watch this show or you're a sports fan in general and the only thing that you watch is the NFL, I'm going to tell you right now you're missing out because this weekend was absolutely electric when it comes to college basketball. And it doesn't mean you have to be a huge college basketball fan to enjoy it. I'm just telling you, it was absolutely electric. Fellas, your thoughts on honestly the opening monologue in and of itself, the topics of B, but more importantly, the NFL's a little tired right now.
Casey, your thoughts?
Well, that's if you're not a huge, giant nerd when it comes to the NFL. Friday, the reason why I was here for so long was because I really did some research and digging into this whole Joe Mixon thing. And I came to the conclusion that people just need to calm down. He's going to be part of this team whether we like it or not.
Oh, you're already there. You're already there. We're going to talk about the Bengals because why not? I mean, we're not going to talk about them long. I can promise you that. But I'm just saying, you think for sure he's coming back? I don't think so. I'll be honest. I think it comes down to negotiation, and maybe they're both playing a little bit of hardball. I don't know how much leverage Joe Mixon truly has. So maybe he is going to take a pay cut. But they're not going to keep him for $12 million, Casey.
Yes, they will. And let me tell you why.
Oh, my God.
Let me tell you why. He was top 10 in just about every metric for receiving backs. Okay. That's what we're pretty much looking for.
What did he rate in Ken Palm?
Great question.
I don't know. But if you extrapolate his season out, if you give him the games that he missed, which were, one, a really big game against Kansas City where Samaje Perine rushed for over 105 yards, and if you give him the Bills game, which he ended up rushing for over 105 yards in the playoffs, the dude would have had a top five season.
So what you're saying is basically it's irrelevant who's back there. It just depends on whether the offensive line can block or not. That's exactly what you just proved. He just said if you gave him what Samaje Perine did, because oddly, of course he would have done the same thing as Perine would have done, then he would have had a great season. Sorry, UDF. Don't mean to do that. However, that's not how this works. I'm just saying, if they keep him for $12 million, then you know what? That's $12 million they wasted on spending on somebody else. I'm not doing this today. I am so tired of Bengals talk and Joe Mixon. I can't do it. Paul, let's get on a different subject.
Yes.
Paul, what do you got for me?
So I got a great one for you, Trace. You ready for this one?
Let's hear it.
So I got back from Kansas City Saturday night, probably, 9 o'clock. Get in, walk inside the house. I'm told that there is no TV, no internet. No. There is still no TV and no internet at my house. So I was without a TV to watch anything on Sunday. I streamed, I burned through data, and then yesterday I went out and watched the 2 March Madness games somewhere else. But I was without internet. I churned through data to upload a very abbreviated rebound rundown last night, and I felt like I was living in the dark ages. So I missed out on a lot yesterday. Did not miss out on the games, but I missed out on pretty much everything else.
Well, I apologize for that.
I know. It's a tough scene.
I'm sorry about that.
Tough scene.
For a guy that has cable.
Cable.
I am very shocked that you lost your connection to the ability of watching television. That seems like something when you pay $175 a month, you shouldn't have that issue. Yeah. I'm just saying.
It happens like once a year. Anyway, no, it was a great weekend. A lot of great basketball. And I know, I've seen what you want to get into here, so I'm not going to spoil any of that. But it was, right. I got a lot of thoughts on a lot of things here, so I'll let you go wherever you want to go with it.
Well, let's get into the officiating first, because that's something that's a hot topic no matter what happens in any game that's relatively close, right? If it's a close sporting event more times than not, and I'd say that percentile is in the 90% range, you're going to have officiating brought up when talking about the basketball and or football and or baseball insert game. Here's my thought on officiating in general. All I ask for, and I know maybe it's a lot to ask, and I know it's a hard job, okay? I'm not here to say it's a hard job, but you know what? It's a job. You get paid to do the job. I'm not here to sit here and pander to the idea that these guys are trying, quote unquote, trying their best. Guess what? If I'm driving over a bridge and the bridge collapsed, you don't go to the engineer's office and say, well, they tried their best. That's not how this works, okay? You should be held accountable when you don't do your job well. And I'm not suggesting that that specific call in the Creighton game warrants that type of kind of rhetoric, perhaps. But I do think that when you officiate a game, I want it to be consistent. It's that simple. It's that simple. It doesn't mean that I want the rules to be called exactly how the rules are maybe laid out in the book. I just want a foul in the first minute to be a foul in the 40th minute. And I don't think that happened yesterday. I don't think that it did. I'm not suggesting that in the rule book you might be able to say that that was a foul or not a foul. That's to be determined by somebody else. But when we have these flop calls in November being called at a regular basis and they were called correctly, and then all of a sudden the NCAA tournament rolls around, Paul, and there hasn't been a flop call called in what seems like the last 90 days of watching college basketball, well, I have an issue with that. I have an issue with the idea that we know we have a problem in this game, and then when the stakes become the highest, we stop calling it. Why? Because situations matter. And I'm sick and tired of getting on Twitter and hearing people's argument of saying, well, a foul is a foul. If you call it in the first minute, you should call it in a tie game in double, triple, quadruple overtime in the last 5 seconds. I disagree. Maybe that makes me wrong, but I disagree. I don't find the idea of rules being the same all the time. You have to feel out the situation. You have to be 100% certain if you're going to make a holding call in the Super Bowl that it's aggressive and it would have made a 100% difference. If you're going to call a foul on the kid from Creighton in the lane, you better damn well know that it was a foul. It shouldn't require us to go to replay and double check it from 3 different angles to know whether or not it was a foul, because when you slow anything down, all the way down to the umpteenth degree, Paul and Casey, if you watch that game, it is always going to look like a little more contact than there really truly was. If you did that every single play of the game, I'm telling you right now, San Diego State's whole team would have fouled out. Whole team would have fouled out. Now, I'm not taking anything away from San Diego State. I'm just saying that we need to get ourselves in a position where we need to call the game consistently, and these refs need to be held accountable. It's relatively that simple for me. I don't know how you feel about it, Paul. I haven't really talked to you about this at all. I know that you got on Twitter and kind of went back and forth with some people. Where are you at on that situation and your thoughts about it?
I'm tough because I think it was – usually I would agree with you. Usually I would not want the officials. I'm not a fan of the officiating anyway. I mean, if you follow me on Twitter, you know I'm always talking about the officiating and everything like that. I think college basketball does have a major officiating problem, but part of that is because there's just so many games and so many officials that you need to have to officiate this sport that you're going to run into some inconsistency. But the way I looked at it yesterday, it's tough because, like I said, usually I would be with you where I don't want them to call a foul at the very end of the game to decide a game like that. But the problem was that yesterday's, to me, felt so obvious that I understand where you have to call it. I mean, Nembhard had his hand on his hip, kind of pulled him as he was going up. I get that it was a foul. I don't like it. I wish that a game like that that's so back and forth with the trip to the Final Four doesn't get decided at the free throw line. Credit to the guy for stepping up there and making it. But it's just frustrating to watch a game like that, again, where they allow so much contact throughout the game to then have that kind of a call be what decides it at the very end. Nobody's going to get upset if they don't call that foul. Maybe some San Diego State fans will sit there and say, come on, like that could have been a foul or whatever, and then you go to overtime. And who knows? San Diego State maybe wins in overtime. But it just, to me, feels like such a letdown. And actually what I tweeted, I'm glad you brought that up, what I tweeted was, and I think it got a little misconstrued, was I felt bad that the whole last 30 seconds ended the way that they did. I mean, I looked at my phone. It was 4:20. It was 4:20. I looked at my phone. There were 33.7 seconds left. I was sitting with one of my friends watching a game. I said, how long you want to think these last 33 seconds takes? He bet 5 minutes. They took 17 minutes to play those last 33 seconds of that game. And it just took all of the energy out of such a fun ending to two teams going back and forth, San Diego State getting them to play at their style, all those things that happened in that game. And then you get down to it. Shireman gets the steal off the inbound, lays it up. The other thing, too, was Creighton giving that foul with 4 seconds left on the shot clock, where it didn't feel like that possession was really going anywhere. That's a different discussion, though. But it was a really frustrating way to end that game. Whether you think it's a foul or not, whether you think there should have been 0.3 of a second left on the clock or not for a chance to have a tip in at the buzzer, whatever you think, just a really frustrating and clunky way to end what could have been a really good ending to a game.
And I think that's very nice of you to say that you felt like it was a foul. I just don't. I know that people say, well, he grabbed him, he pulled him down. I'm telling you right now, when you slow things down, everything looks like it's a foul. Every little jersey tug looks exacerbated. And I'm not saying you're right or wrong. It's an opinion-based thing. I'm just saying that call has not been made for most of the game, if at all. It just hasn't been. If you went down every possession and you slow down every possession, that call hardly ever gets made. And that's the main problem I have with it. And for those that you sit there and say, well, foul in the first minute is the same as the foul in the last minute, I'll get on board with that as soon as they start replaying and you're allowed to go to the monitors for every single possession of the entire game. Why is it just weird that the last 2 minutes of a game they start reviewing the the inbound, out of bounds calls under the monitor, and they don't do it for the rest of the game? Because the last 2 minutes are magnifying. They're a little more important. They should be officiated a little bit differently. I'm not saying a ton differently, just a little bit differently. Anyway, I digress. One guy that's impressed me this March Madness, not just in this Final Four run, but just throughout the last few games I've watched him, is Dusty May. And it's largely not because of anything he's doing from an X and O's perspective. It's not anything that he's doing really on the court. It's mostly his persona. It's the way he acts. It's how calm, cool, and collected he is. And I've always wondered, what's the best angle? Maybe the easy answer is right in the middle. But a fun thing to think about is what kind of coach would you prefer? Do you want someone that's intense, fiery, like a Mick Cronin, who I couldn't stand Mick when he would do this because I felt like he never got the most out of his players, because when you scream and yell at guys all day long, and inevitably I feel like guys are going to play scared, they're going to play tense, and they're not going to play up to their full ability. Bob Knight was the same way, but they had some success. Mick's had some success. Then you see a guy like Jay Wright, and you're like, wow, that guy hardly ever yells about anything, and he has success. Dusty May, same thing. You could take it into football, quite frankly, right? What's the one thing that everybody knocks Zach Taylor for the most part, right? Is he's not really a rah-rah guy all the time, although from time to time he does get that way. What would you prefer to have? I typically have always said I would rather have the calm, cool, and collected guy. We'll make it a quick little poll between the office mates here. What if you had to pick one, which one are you picking?
I mean, I'm picking calm, collected during the game, fiery at practice. That's what I would want if I was an athlete.
I'm trying to think of examples here, and I'm thinking, for instance, would I rather have a Jay Wright or a Mick Cronin or a Bruce Pearl? I would pick Jay Wright. Now, I'm not saying coach. I'm not saying like coaching pedigree. Obviously, you'd rather have Jay Wright. I'm saying Jay Wright was somebody. I mean, if you go back and watch the 2016 buzzer beater, he didn't even react. Just totally calm, cool, and collected under the circumstances. I would take a Jay Wright type because to me, when you are calm, cool, and collected all of the time, that gives you the opportunity to then get fiery and your guys respond to it. But if you're fiery all the time, like if you're like Eric Musselman,
right,
where you're just an Energizer bunny 24/7, then when you try to take it to the next level, your guys are like, all right, is this just our guy being outrageous here? What's going on? Whereas if Jay Wright loses his shit and breaks oh, my bad.
No, you're fine.
If he loses it and breaks a clipboard, all the guys are like, whoa.
Right.
This means something here. So.
Love it. I also love that you felt the need to
this
apologize.
is a kid's show. It's a kid's show.
How fun was Noel from Kansas State? I mean, that kid played his absolute tail off this entire weekend, and then it came down to the end, and it just made me realize that sometimes maybe I'm being too harsh here. I do think that he thought about the moment for a half a second, and he gave the ball away. Maybe I'm trying to crush the kid. I thought the kid played unbelievably well. They would have never been in the position they were in if it wasn't for him. But for a guy that took 45-foot shots all over the place, took what many would consider quote-unquote bad shots all the time, for him to turn down the opportunity to shoot another one of those types of shots, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And Kansas State didn't even get a shot up, which makes it even worse. But there's another kid in this tournament that impressed the hell out of me, and he's not even a guy that really is quote-unquote one of the stars of the tournament, and that is Michael Forrest. If you don't know who Michael Forrest is, he is FAU's lone guy that is not eligible to come back. He is their senior, and I'm not talking, when you use senior these days, you don't know if they're coming back or not coming back. This guy's out of eligibility. He walked up to the free throw line not one time, but 2 times with the game on the line and made all 4 free throws, both pairs. And I don't think he even hit the rim, Paul. Did you get an opportunity to see that and watch that?
No, I actually just pulled it up. I was listening in the car. We were driving home. That was the only game we didn't see this weekend. We were driving home. But it was funny. As we were sitting in the car, Michael Forrest stepped to the line, and it was a tie game, right? Or were they trailing? Or it was a tie game. Either way, he steps to the line. He has to make these free throws. And one of my friends that I was driving home, I said, man, what a situation. He goes, no chance he makes them both. Boom, makes them both. Steps to the line again. My friend goes, no chance he makes them both. Boom, makes them both. I mean, it was just a situation like that where you have to step to the line and step up for your team, and he did it in a massive way on the biggest stage at Madison Square Garden. What a performance. I mean, to win the game for your team like that at the free throw line on college basketball's biggest stage at the world's most famous arena is just unbelievable. And I don't like saying unbelievable because obviously we saw it, but boy, was that something. That was crazy.
Yeah, I don't think many probably the casual fan probably wouldn't have appreciated what he did, but knowing the stakes, that he knew the stakes, he knew what it meant to hit those free throws. It was a trip to the Final Four. He misses the just one of those free throws, and they have a legitimate chance to not only go to overtime, but they have a legitimate chance to lose the game. And he didn't even look like it genuinely looked like he was shooting to figure out who was getting the ball at the YMCA. Like, hey, shoot to see who gets ball. And he didn't even hit the rim, which, again, maybe I'm overstating that. The idea of just walking to the line 4 straight times with the game on the line and not even touching the rim is wild to me. Bonkers. Because you got to think about it. It's one thing to hit the game-winning shot, because more times than not when you're hitting a game-winning shot, you're in the moment, you're playing the game, you're not really thinking of the magnitude of the shot, I guess, unless you're Noel possibly. And I don't mean to keep crushing that kid, but man, my gosh, you got to shoot the ball. But overall, this tournament has been unbelievable. Unbelievable. We say that every single year, but this year there's facts to back it up, right? It's the first time the number 1 seed's never made the Elite Eight. It's you look around the Final Four, and in this office's bracket pool, Reed Mouse came in here right before the show started and said, how many people do you think even have a single team left in the Final Four?
I got one.
I think there was 2 people in the pool.
I got one. UConn.
And UConn's the only team
Yeah.
that everybody has.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Is this more of the norm? You remember when you remember when the transfer portal and the NIL became a thing? And the first thing that everybody jumped to conclusion and said with NIL was what? The rich are going to get richer, right? The big schools now with NIL are going to be able to pay these guys an abundant amount more, and they're going to become better than everybody. All the blue bloods, Kentucky, Kansas, Duke, Carolina, not Michigan State. They're going to hold all the advantages. When in fact, I don't want to say the opposite is true, because that would be a little bit too much of a lean one way over the other. But I do think we're in a position now where the internet, the ability to be able to see film all times of the day, the ability to be able to, when I say internet, communicate with people like that, and the exposure of all these different brands and schools is leading to the opportunity of an FAU, is leading to the opportunity of San Diego State's been a good program for a long time, so I'm not going to sit here and act like it's just because of NIL. That'd be ridiculous. In fact, one would make the argument that in 2020, San Diego State had every opportunity to make the Final Four that year, just like every other team in the world I know. Dayton would like to have a word. Creighton would like to have a word. But I don't know if I prefer it this way, but I'm going to try to enjoy this Final Four. I sat up here. I don't know what day that was. You guys can remind me. I don't know if it was Wednesday or Friday of last week. And I said, the last thing I hope Christmas. Let me try this again. The last thing that I hope happens is a bunch of upsets. And what did we get? We got nothing but upsets. I wanted nothing more than to see Houston play Alabama and just absolutely have, like, just a rock fight. But to be quite frank, Houston wasn't playing their best basketball.
Nope.
And Alabama got themselves into a rock fight, and guess who won? The team that was used to being in rock fights.
Yeah, and a lot of people are talking obviously about FAU, and it's funny looking back at some of the pictures. I mean, Rick Broering posted a picture from when Northern Kentucky played down at FAU in December, and it was an empty gym. I think you could probably count 5 people in the stands in a tiny little high school gym down there in Boca Raton. But as I said on the Rebound Rundown today, this FAU team and this run is a Cinderella run, and only because they are not a big name brand. They were higher in the net and in KenPom before the tournament started than all of these teams. Miami, who's in the Final Four, Virginia, Kentucky, TCU, Indiana, Michigan State, Northwestern, and Missouri. All 4 Final Four teams were in the final top 25 poll of the season. So this is not like these teams are suddenly coming out of nowhere and it's George Mason 2006 or it's VCU 2011 or it's Butler to the national championship. This is not that. The only reason that this feels crazy is because it's San Diego State and it's FAU, teams that you don't know. But like if you're really in the weeds watching college basketball all year, FAU has won 35 games now, whatever. You don't win 35 games on accident. I know you're not beating 35 high major teams, but you don't win 35 games by accident. They are a very, very, very good team, and I thought it was great. I haven't read the article yet, but there was a headline that in the locker room after the game yesterday, in the NCAA tournament's open locker rooms, the reporters can go in, talk to the players whenever they want, whatever, as soon as the game's over, basically. And on the whiteboard in the locker room, Dusty May had written something to the effect of great matchup and underlined it in the locker room. And you're sitting there thinking to yourself, yeah, Kansas State, I mean, FAU's gotten to this point. And I saw your tweet too, and I brought this up in the car on the way home from Kansas City. I'm glad you tweeted it because it reminded me to bring it up. FAU had the exact same path as a number 1 seed in this tournament. It was a little reversed, but they beat an 8 seed. Then they beat a 16 seed. If you're a 1 seed, you play the 16 seed first, then you play the 8-9 game. But from there, they played a 4 seed Tennessee, and they play a 3 seed Kansas State. The only way that if they were a 1 seed that could have been harder in effect was if they'd have played Marquette instead of Kansas State. But who cares? A 2 and a 3 seed, what's the difference at that point? Right. Like Kansas, they did not fluke their way into playing. I know they got the 16 seed. They didn't play Purdue, but who's to say with the way this team's playing that they wouldn't have beaten Purdue? I mean, if FDU can do it, why couldn't have FAU done it? So, just a crazy, crazy time there. And if it's FAU and Miami, 2 Florida teams, regional rivalry. That's what they always say about those teams.
Yeah, I bet they have a long-standing tradition of basketball rivalry between the Hurricanes.
I'm just excited.
And the Owls.
I'm just excited for all of the Miami college students that spent all weekend at Ultra, just like doing the craziest things that they don't even remember from this weekend. And all of a sudden, they're going to wake up on Monday morning and go, "Oh, I guess we got to go to Houston and party for the week." Yeah. Our team's what? They're in the what?
Miami for sure is probably not a basketball school, as we all know. In fact, there was one year where, not to get sidetracked on a bunch of stories, but there was a year where if you're looking to go to a regional final or the Elite Eight games, find you a regional that Miami's in. Because if Miami's in a regional and it's not in South Florida, the chances of the ticket prices for that regional are incredibly low.
Trace, I saw like 4 Miami fans all weekend.
Wow.
They went to the Final Four.
Yeah. That brings up another point. Jim Larrañaga deserves his flowers because there's not too many guys that take not only one team to the Final Four at George Mason, but they take another team to the Final Four at Miami. He's done this at George Mason, which that's no disrespect. George Mason's been a decent program, but one would argue it's largely because of him.
Yeah, because of that. Yeah.
And then the second thing would be Miami. Is there any difference between Miami and South Carolina as far as basketball goes?
Good question.
I think that answers the point. It's not a huge difference if there is one. I think it can't go unstated how much of an impact Jim Larrañaga obviously has when he goes to a basketball school. And if he went to a blue blood, one would argue what would have happened. I think that his name doesn't get brought up all that often when you talk about some of the great coaches that we have. Obviously, you bring up the Selfs of the world. You bring up, like it or not, at Kentucky, but Calipari's name is going to get thrown in that mix from time to time. I know I'm going to miss a bunch of guys, but Jay Wright was a part of that conversation. Rick Pitino was without question a part of that conversation. But Jim Larrañaga's name should be brought up when we talk about those types of coaches from here on out moving forward. Do you think that there's any fluke involved with Miami? Because there's not. I thought maybe there was, but there's not. I have to admit that Chat was right. Sir Boy Wonder's been on these guys for a long time. We've talked about it, or you guys have talked about it. I don't want to take any credit for it because I've kept hearing this ACC team was good. This ACC team was good. And I just kind of shrugged it off for a while. Like, yeah, well, they're in the ACC. This team's good. And Miami's one of those clubs that we want to talk about a pathway. They had the hardest pathway, I think, of anybody, if you want to get down to it.
They did.
Miami, let's roll back the tape. I'm trying to remember this off the top of my head. Miami was 90% chance of losing, like I said before, to Drake in the first round. Drake was one of those teams that everyone had as possibly an upset, which, by the way, for all of the 12-5 people out there that are like, 12 beats a 5 every year, guaranteed, didn't happen this year. 2 of the 5s are in the Final Four. Just remember that for next year moving forward. However, Miami beats Drake. They turn around, and then they have to play Indiana. 4 seed. Top seed they could possibly play. They play Indiana.
They played the hardest possible.
They then move on. They have to play the 1 seed, right, in Houston. Hardest seed you could possibly play in their region. They beat Houston. They then have to turn around and they have to play a Texas team who's playing incredibly well. They have to not only play Texas who's playing well, they have to play Texas in the T-Mobile Center. So if you don't know, I believe that there's some teams that get hot in a specific gym, arena, whatever you want to call it, and they just like that place. For whatever reason, the people on their team, they like the angles, they like the the depth perception, if you will, of the rims. They like the arena. And I'm here to tell you, Texas was the team that played the best in that arena over a 3-week stretch. And the reason I say 3 weeks is because the Big 12 championship was also in the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City, for those that are not keeping up with that. And the thing is that they got lucky. Well, not lucky, but they earned the right to play in the T-Mobile Center for the regional. And they were playing incredibly well. Now, the only thing I'll say is that they also probably, one would argue, should have won that game against Miami. They let it slip away a little bit. I don't want to say they choked, but that's the term that comes to mind. I don't know if you're ready to get into the Xavier game, Paul. We can save that for another day.
No, yeah, we can talk about it.
But I don't think Xavier played all that bad outside of the first 6 minutes. And that's the struggle with Xavier. Xavier was in a position to win that game if they just played okay for the first 6 minutes. And as much as I like Jack Nunge, I think Jack Nunge's an incredible player. He just had a bad 4 or 5 minutes. Yeah. That's all it was. Yeah, he couldn't buy a basket. He got leverage. He got position. He just had one of those games, and it happens to every athlete. You can't miss your first 5 or 6 bunnies of a game, and Texas starts making a couple shots, and expect yourself to get back in a basketball game. I think Xavier, again, I've said it all on this broadcast before, I think they were a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde team, but I do genuinely think they were a good team. I don't think that their one performance led to them being frauds. But for whatever reason, and I don't know why, do I think that they could win without Sule Boom? I think they could. If put it this way, if Kunkel is going to play the way that he played in that basketball game, they could win despite Sule Boom playing poorly. However, no one else really stepped up in place of Sule outside of Kunkel, right? And I know maybe I'm too hard on Colby. And I feel like I just don't think that Colby, for as much as he gets his praise, ever really decided to put the team on his back when it meant the most. And maybe I'm wrong on that because I haven't watched every minute of Xavier basketball. But for a guy that was touted to be an NBA player, he never looked like an NBA player to me in the big moments, Paul.
Yeah, I would say that he did in the Big East tournament. He did it at certain points in the first weekend. The problem here with the game against Texas was it felt to me like Jack Nunge knew that he needed to have the game of his life. And maybe the pressure got to him. Maybe he was trying too hard. Maybe he just had an off night. I don't know what it was. But it was so abundantly clear that he knew that he was the key to the game because he kept getting such good position down low on the block by the basket. He was getting exactly the types of looks that Xavier needed, and he just wasn't converting. And it's tough when you get down there to that point because it was 6-0 Texas, it was 12-5 Texas, and then it was 14-10. And you're thinking to yourself, all right, well, this is manageable. And Serge Rice picked up 2 quick fouls. Texas had 4 fouls in the first, 6 minutes of the game. Dylan Dessou went out. And I actually had somebody text me, somebody that, a very prominent Xavier person texted me and at that point and said, has Xavier ever been as close to a national championship as they are right now? Like with the way the bracket had broken, they've already beaten UConn twice. Maybe you play Miami, whatever, and you can get to the Final Four. Somebody texted me and said, has Xavier ever been as close to a national championship as they are in that exact moment at the under 12 timeout of the first half of that Texas game? When Dylan Dessou was out, it looked like Xavier was playing well enough to potentially win the game. They just weren't hitting shots at that point. You're thinking, well, all Xavier's done all year is play well offensively. And then they just got blown out. And at halftime, I kind of, Adam Baum and I were sitting next to each other, and he looked at me, and we both kind of said to each other, this goes one of 2 ways. Xavier either makes this a game or they get blown out. They ended up cutting it down to 12, but, either way, it ballooned up. It was not a 12-point game. It ballooned above 20, and Xavier kind of made a little run there at the end. But What was tough was seeing, and this is really getting into the dirt of college basketball analytics, but seeing shot quality, which is basically just a way to look at how good of a shot you're taking throughout the game. Texas won by 2 points based on just the quality of shots that the teams took in that game. Xavier had so many chances around the rim. I really don't think that the defense was what let Xavier down in this game. I think, again, it was the offense that just didn't come through in the first half because they scored, 46 points in the second half, whatever it was. So I don't think it was the offense that the defense that let Xavier down here. I think there was just a big swing because with about 3 minutes left in the first half, it was a 13 or 14 point game, and you're thinking, all right, maybe you cut it down to like 8 or 9 here and you got yourself a game. Then Marcus Carr at the end of the shot clock throws up a Hail Mary. It goes in. Xavier misses a couple of layups, come back down the other way. I think it was Timmy Allen hits that half-court shot at the buzzer, and they're up 17. And at that point, you're just thinking, look, they came back from 13 down against Kennesaw State, but this is not Kennesaw State. This is Texas.
Yeah, and I think the difficult part for Xavier is that you might not say that they lost because of defense, but it's hard to get back in a basketball game with the quality of defense that Xavier plays. And that doesn't mean to crush Xavier. I'm not trying to stomp on him or anything like that, but at the end of the day, it's very difficult to get yourself back into a basketball game when you give up an easy layup from time to time like they traditionally would have done. All right. There's one other, and I'm being serious when I say this. There's one other player that if you have not seen play, I'm encouraging you to find a way to either DVR it and or set aside some time and watch this girl play. Yes, it's a girl. Caitlin Clark. I don't know if you've seen her. I don't know if you know her. I don't even know if you've seen what she did to get to the Final Four. But she is as entertaining of a player as you're going to find in college basketball on both levels, men's and women's. And Paul, I don't know if you've even seen. I know you're a Caitlin Clark fan. I don't even know if you've seen what she did, but she scored 41 points, 12 assists, 10 rebounds in the Elite Eight to get to the Final Four. This girl, and I maybe I'm overselling it to a small extent here. She reminds me of Steph Curry a little bit when you watch her. She does.
So right as you were about to make that point, I saw a tweet from Jeff Goodman that said Caitlin Clark's the most exciting player to watch in college basketball, men's or women's. And you and I have been talking about Caitlin Clark all season. I mean, she's been great last few seasons, but this season especially, it seems like in every big moment, at every point when Iowa needs somebody to make a play, Caitlin Clark steps up and makes a play, and she is electric. She is so fun to watch. And what a run she's been on in this tournament. What a run. I haven't been able to watch much of her, I'll be honest. I mean, I see the highlights. I see the stats. I see the box scores and everything. But I haven't been able to sit down and watch a full game of Iowa in this tournament. But what I have seen of everything with the highlights and everything else, it's pure electricity. And it's great for the women's game. It's great. And this is not – it's not like a token –
No, hell no. I'd be the first to tell you that women's basketball is like watching paint dry 99% of the time. And I know I'll get crushed for saying that, but genuinely, that is what it is. There's a reason that the ratings for the women's is very relatively low because the level of basketball being played is not as high as the men. But I'm telling you, if anything, that should bode well for me what I'm about to say about Caitlin Clark. She is as fun to watch as anybody. She is so skilled and talented that if she were basically had the qualities of a man, if she played the men's game based off of her skill set, she'd be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. Like, that's how good she is.
She's awesome. She's so great to watch. I mean, really, you turn on an Iowa women's game, and you just know you're going to see something because she's so consistent, too. It's not like she has a good game, maybe not here. It's consistent. Game after game after game, she steps up for them, and she's awesome.
Yeah. Other topics. FC Cincinnati, and let's talk about this for every bit of 3 minutes.
Let's go, Casey.
Casey?
Yeah.
For those that don't care, like yours truly, for the many in the chat that probably could care less, You got 3 minutes to let us know what our FC Cincinnati update is and what you feel and how you feel about our, what would it be? The orange and blue.
The orange and blue. Yeah, they really struggled in the first half. I mean, they were outshot. I think the stat said 15-3. Just in the first half alone, they really struggled. But coming out of the half, they had a quick score in the 48th minute and never looked back from there. And their defense, which has been the struggle for FC, managed to get them out of this game. And they had their shots. They played a whole lot better in the second half. But they have not lost a game. And I know they drew 6 times in that span since July. They are 3-0-6 since last July, which is really, really incredible. I mean, this team has what it takes to make a deep push again, in my opinion. I think they've got enough talent now to be true competitors for the championship. If you're looking ahead to next week, I think they play Miami. They're going to be favored in that game. I expect them to come away with a win. That's your quick 3-minute update.
That was like a minute and a half. You got more
Beautiful.
time, Casey, if you want.
Well,
Casey, I got one quick question.
Yeah.
Because this came into my head when you said that they played really poor in the first half. They won 1-0.
Yeah.
How could you play so poorly when you don't even give up a goal? I'm being honest. I mean, I don't know enough about the game.
I guess it just the way you look at it. I mean, they were really poor on offense in the first half, and they continued that great defensive game plan into the second. So that's why I'm kind of saying they played. Are
they peak Mick Cronin Cincinnati Bearcats? Is that who they are? They just muck it up.
Many are asking.
Muck it up. No, they are not. They are not known as this defensive team. They're known as offense. But you know they've been playing a lot better in transition as of late, and I think that was the biggest weakness was when they would make this huge offensive push, they just couldn't seem to defend that transition well. They got a lot of fast breaks scored on them.
Yeah.
And they've just been doing a lot better in that department. I don't know exactly. I couldn't tell you schematically what's going on there or if it's just a stroke of luck. But as of right now, FC has been playing a lot better on defense. Their offense has been playing relatively the same or if not better. And they've had opportunities just not go in the goal. I mean,
what's it cost to get into a game?
like $50.
How much?
$50.
What?
$50
to get into an FC game?
Well, it's a lot less than that. But if you want a good seat, it's like $50.
Oh.
You want like right smack dab in the middle of the
Yeah,
center field, it's
I'm
$50.
Okay.
I mean, I plan on going to one game a year, so if I'm going to go, I'm probably going to try to get decent seats. And I have a general idea what I'm watching, but I'm just there for the ambiance, the atmosphere. I'm the people sitting in the moon deck out at a Reds game, and they're just eating their popcorn and they're chatting it up with their friends, and they're asking 1,000 questions. I won't be asking 1,000 questions, but I'll be as clueless as those people when they go to a game. Just like, oh, is this guy any good?
What are the chances?
Radar gun, 102 mile an hour.
What are the chances we get Tom Brenneman to a game?
He's a soccer guy. He said he was a soccer guy. Remember, he played soccer. He likes soccer. I don't like soccer, but I'll try to appreciate it from time to time. The Reds, opening days on Thursday, guys. We have Chatterbox Reds. Nick Kirby's been doing a great job with that. If you've not subscribed to that podcast, please do. And also this week, there are a lot of things that are going to happen with Chatterbox Reds, but I want to get into something with Ellie De La Cruz and Christian Encarnacion Strand. Both are going to start the season on the IL. Not ideal news. I don't know what to make of it. I do have some slight concern because anytime guys that are relatively important aren't going to be playing when they're supposed to be playing, there's to be cause for some concern. But I also realize that if this was the playoffs in the big leagues, these guys might be playing. So how much do we actually, concern ourselves over it or we don't? Encarnacion Strand is probably my bigger concern of the two. Dele Cruz, if you did not know, has a little bit of a hamstring situation going on, so he's just going to make sure that he's going to be precautious and make sure that he doesn't do anything to exacerbate his situation. But Encarnacion Strand, anytime you hear the term herniated disc in your back, I don't care what it is. That's a little concerning. I'm not going to go and scream to the heavens and say, oh, we're cursed and this is terrible, and next thing you know, the sky is falling. But I'm a little concerned. The other thing I'm relatively concerned about is that Connor Overton is the fourth starter for this baseball team. I don't know if you've seen Connor Overton, but I'm not sure he's going to get many guys out. and when you're a pitcher, that's important. And the problem is that I don't know what expectations we should have going into this year. You've heard me say this from time to time again. I don't know. But I will tell you something from none other than C. Trent Rosecrans, from you know where I'm going with this. The Athletic, because they don't pay us to run the show, but Tom likes them so much we just bring them up every single day.
Every day.
The Athletic. Since 1945, the Reds this year are going to have 4 pitchers with the least combined innings to start a year in Major League Baseball since 1945. Now, some of that is obviously the youth. We all know Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, and Graham Ashcraft are young guys. They haven't had a lot of innings. We think they're very, very good, and that is good news. But you add in Connor Overton, and the Reds sit at 382 innings pitched.
That's tough.
382 innings pitched. The guy that is going to be the what do they call the guy in the parade? I'm drawing a blank here. The Grand Marshal. Struggle fest. Our Grand Marshal threw 200 innings a year in Bronson Arroyo. And we got 4 starting pitchers that are going to come out here in their career with 382 innings. Not ideal. I don't care what anyone says. But we'll see how it goes. My expectations are incredibly low, which means it should be a good season. If you come into this season with any expectations, not good.
I got a question. Because,
Reed Mouse just broke news, and it's the NFL, of course. And that's what we're going to ultimately end up talking about. Lamar Jackson has requested a trade.
Well, that's not really breaking, is it?
That's what he said. Don't know if it's breaking or not. If it's not breaking, then it's relative news. Here's the thing about Lamar Jackson. I went on this take the other day. It's irrelevant, folks. It's irrelevant. You have to be desired by someone else in order for a trade to make sense. And I don't think that it's going to happen. It has no chance of happening at this current moment. Casey, correct me if I'm wrong, but for the most part, teams already had an opportunity to go get him if they truly wanted him.
Right.
Based off the fact that he was unrestricted.
I'm confused because he was tagged, and then they have to if the other team wants to get him, it's 2 first-round picks. That's the trade. Like that.
Yeah. So basically, the only way he gets traded is if the Ravens decide he's not worth 2 first-round picks, and they're willing to trade him away for that.
Yeah. If they think that they can trade him for less than 2 first-round picks, I don't know. It seems odd to me. Seems very odd. Maybe he plans to sign the tag, and then they can request a trade for less than 2 first rounds. I don't know. That might be where it's heading. I could see that, but it doesn't make sense. I think if a team wanted him, they would have traded 2 first-rounders for him, if you ask me. But
Lamar Jackson's other issue is that you have to build an offense around him a little bit too, right? I didn't even get into that the other day. But many people would say for Lamar Jackson to be successful, you have to surround himself with talent that fits the mold of what he is, which is a running quarterback. You can't just plop him into a West Coast offense and say, hey, have at it. Let it rip. Lamar Jackson, right now, needs to take a long, hard look in the mirror and ask himself what he wants. Because if he wants a fair deal, I think that he can get a fair deal done. And the longer this goes on, the worse it gets for him. The worse it looks for his character, in my opinion. Say whatever you want, but anytime you hold out, even though the owners are millionaires, billionaires, it always falls back from a fan perspective on the player. They're the ones that get hit the most. So, and I know Jesse Bates didn't really hold out that long, but listen, if Jesse Bates held out 3, 4, 5, 6 games into the regular season, and they were and the Bengals started losing because they were struggling on the back end of their defense, guess who's taking the hit on that? Jesse Bates is taking a hit on that. Lamar Jackson, at some point, if he does this holdout thing, is going to be viewed upon as not a team guy. He already, to a small extent, in my opinion, has. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, not going to the playoff game was huge. I think there's a lot of disgruntled teammates, including the ownership, of course, and the coaching. Just because, you're in a contract dispute, but you have a chance to make it to the playoffs, I think you should at least go even if you're injured, to see if your team can win or not. Even if you don't plan on
travel.
playing.
You're talking about make the trip.
Just travel.
Yeah, you travel, make the trip. You be a part of the team. You're cheering them on, and he didn't do that. Let's get back into the Reds really quickly. Reed Mouse, of course, is the Debbie Downer of the Cincinnati Reds because he's a fan of the Chicago Cubs, who has a lot of history of winning in Chicago.
Nick Kirby just texted us this graphic to put up. So here's our schedule for the week.
Yep.
With Chatterbox Reds. Trace, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, I'll jump through this. For those that don't know, Twitter Spaces, it's just an easy way to jump on and be able to talk. You can jump in, ask questions here nor there. As far as the podcast goes, you can see all there are all of the guests he has on. And we are going to do a Reds opening day Eve show, as you can see, on Wednesday night. We do have some pretty sizable guests, as I would say, on that show. We'll have fun. We'll get into the nuts and bolts of what the season looks like, what's to come to expect, some things to look out for. And as I've said before, moving forward, we'll be down live at Moorline on Reds opening day. For those that missed the show on Friday, we will do Off the Bench at 10 a.m. right out of Moorline, and then we'll obviously move right into a little bit of a post-game show, however that may look on the first day from Moorline as well. From our perspective, I still got to figure out if I'm going to go into the game.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Are we all going to the game?
I don't know what we do here. But as far as the Reds opening day goes, I would like to think that we would go into the stadium, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the plan is with going in or not. I feel like I got offered a ticket last week, then it got taken away, then I got offered another ticket, and it got taken away, and I'm like, are we going in? Are we not going in? What are we doing here?
Good question.
It's a live on the air decision.
Live on the air decision.
Are we all doing it together? Or
yeah, I mean,
are you all with your friends and we're all just in, and then we meet back up after? Like,
I say if we can find some tickets together, I'm willing to go in. We do have a situation where at Moorline, the video board's going to be there. Somebody's going to have to stay back. We'll figure out who that is and kind of handle that situation with the video board. Yeah, I don't know. I get why people don't want to go down to Great American Ballpark. I'm not naive here.
It's the weather.
Even if the weather's great, I still think it'll be a sizable difference as to what it used to be or what it once
61
was.
And sunny.
That's a hell of a day. But it just goes back to the case in point that I had made before is if you have reasonable expectations going into this year, then I think that you could somewhat enjoy it. If you're going to look at it from a wins and losses perspective, it's going to be a difficult year to watch. Sir Boy says it's officially a sellout. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where when you say what you say with Phil, when Phil says what he said, it's really hard to swallow that as a fan and you want to support the team. You know deep down probably that what you're doing as far as a boycotting perspective isn't going to make a damn bit of difference, or at least that's how I feel. So then I'm going to give a terrible analogy of the day, and hopefully this isn't like I seen Trace's toxic earlier. Hopefully this isn't toxic. It reminds me of when people that become vegan, they have a reason as to why they do what they do. And I genuinely understand the concept and the idea of it. The issue involved for me is that there's never going to be enough people that follow that ideology to stop the issue. And I guess you could say, well, that's a pessimistic way of looking at it. You're just being, if everyone felt that way, nothing would change in life. And to that is true. But from a Reds perspective, I just can't get behind the notion of taking away one of the things that I enjoy, which is going to the ballpark, watching some Reds, because of an owner that's a millionaire to be billionaire, sells the franchise, and let them take my joy away, if that makes sense. So since Phil says something stupid, now I then have to in turn not watch baseball, not go to the ballpark, decide I don't like the Reds because of what? That's going to stop the actual issue? It's not. So I guess I'm a sellout.
Oh, I have no problem going to a Reds game. Like all these people that want to say, I'm not going to a Reds game. I don't want to support. Like, okay, all right. But like my $9 that I'm paying to sit 5 rows behind the dugout, I'm going to take advantage of that as much as I can until the Reds get good again, and I can't do that. Because there will be a day, and that day is hopefully not too far away, right, where I can't do that anymore. But for now, I can use a $10 bill and put my feet on the dugout. Can't do that many other places. Can't do that many other places. And I will continue to do that when, until I can't anymore. I mean, I can seriously go have – Reed and I had this discussion, I don't know, a few weeks ago. I can seriously have an entire experience at the Reds for under $20 in a night and sit in the 5th row.
So you're clearly one of those guys that decides to buy a ticket and then moves wherever you want, which is perfect.
I don't even look at the ticket. I walk up to the box office. I say, give me the cheapest thing available. I stick it right in my pocket once I walk through the gate and immediately walk down right behind the dugout, and nobody says a word. It's awesome.
Paul Fritzner.
It's awesome.
He's gonna be on the bulletin boards of every ticket taker and or usher's locker on opening day. It's going to say, you see this guy, known to wear Xavier hoodies, sometimes has hair brushed, sometimes doesn't, but he will be storming down towards the Reds dugout right behind the bench, touting the fact that he can pay $10 and sit wherever he wants. We will not have that.
When you see me, you think problem. That's what you see when you see me. Public disturbance and problem. Paul Fritzner. Sitting behind the dugout. I mean, man, if they want to kick me out from behind the dugout for $10 when I'm trying to actively support them, I mean, all the power to them, man.
Big problem, Paul.
Yeah. That's it.
It's a good point.
That's what they say.
One other thing to note is that there's going to be a Chick-fil-A now, I guess, at the ballpark. That's exciting news. Is that exciting news? Come on. Why in the hell is that headline news in the first place? That seems like some PR stunt that Chick-fil-A decided the only way they were going to possibly put their location in the ballpark is if it came with a PR stunt from whoever it was. I don't know if it was the Reds. I don't know if it was some other, what would that be called? The food agency that's involved there.
Oh, it's like
Aramark.
Aramark. Yeah, I was gonna say Aramark.
Yeah. Fun story. I'm gonna tell you a little fun story. Why not? We got a little bit of time today. So back in the day, I was a little bit of what I would call a go-getter. I played for I'm going to leave out all the names if I can because I don't want anybody to feel like I'm being disrespectful. But I played for a school that didn't have a whole lot when it came to the things that I would come to expect that a college baseball program would have. So I said, to hell with it. We'll fundraise. I'll fundraise. I'll get all of our team. We'll fundraise together. It'll be just the players. I don't need the coaches. I don't need the administration. I don't need anybody. Just the players. I'll make the schedule. We'll do all of it. But the rule is that when we make the money, we get to spend on whatever we want to spend it on. That's simple. So I started doing some digging, and I realized that you could go and you could run the concession stands at said ballpark, right? Either Great American or at that time it was U.S. Bank Arena. Now it's Heritage Bank. Don't want to mess anybody on their naming rights. But Cyclones games is what we ultimately ended up doing. And the way that would work is you would walk into the concourse area or underneath the basement, and you would go into this dungy room, and this is our first time doing it, and they're like, okay, here's how it works, and clearly very disorganized. It might have gotten better. This was a long time ago. Disorganized, people running everywhere. You could tell they were kind of an understaffed situation. So they hand you a bunch of cups, and they tell you, hey, these are your draft cups for your beer. This is your cups for your sodas. You have 2 different cups. 1 cup's for sodas, 1 cup's for beer. Okay? And at the end of the night, you bring us all of your cups back, and then you give us the money that you made. We then send you a check for X percentage of whatever your sales were, right? Now, when you do the math on this, it's quite frankly a scam. If Reed Mouse knew about this, he would call it one of his top 5 scams, because at the end of the day, when you add up all of your labor and manpower that you sent to run those concession stands, you figure out the check that you got back, the amount of hours you worked. It was nothing more than a good measly $3.50 an hour. However, got to be honest on this show, and I'm going to give it to you straight right now, and hopefully there's no repercussion of doing this. But you come to realize that there's a system in play here, a loophole, as they might use in Washington, that when you go down there and you get your cups, you quickly realize that if you sell out of said cups, you must then get more cups to be able to continue to sell draft beer. So it just so happens on dollar beer night, as many of you, $2 beer night now, as you said, Paul.
Inflation.
That's right. That's your guy, Reed. Is that we ran out of beer cups very quickly one night. Very, very quickly. And me and Matt Mays, goes by Booby Mays, we're working that night. And we had a decision to make. What do you do when you run out of draft beer and you got a line out the door? You start selling that beer in soda cups. And it just so happens that those soda cups, right, cost less than the actual soda or the beer that night, right? So we realized that there was an accounting flaw that came with these said cups. And if you sold on any other night outside of dollar beer night, draft beer into a soda cup, there was a large discrepancy between how much money you should have when you go back to the counter. Are you following what I'm saying?
I'm following where we're going here.
Let's just say that we made one hell of a night down there at US Bank on one of those promotional giveaway days. And you can say whatever you want. We just made sure that we got a fair deal. It's as simple as that. But I wonder if they ever fixed that problem. Do you think that they ever fixed the problem? Do you think that they continue to sell do they continue to do inventory in such an archaic way? What a terrible way to do business, by the way. Could you imagine? That was before all of these credit card machines, though, right? That could probably do proper inventory.
Yeah. When did you say this was?
Oh, man, you're going to date me a little bit here. But I want to say it was like 2009.
Oh, yeah. That's way before. Right? Maybe not.
No, I mean,
It
2000.
feels
They
like
had
it would
credit
be.
card machines.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they
yeah,
didn't,
yeah,
they
yeah.
didn't have like the ones where, you could leave a tip on and all that fancy stuff.
Yeah.
But I digress. Go ahead.
I see Reed bringing up. I'll tell this one real quick. Reed bringing up that Great American Ballpark is the Wrigley Southeast. So back in 2012, I think it was 2012, might have been 2011. The Nationals had they were coming off the 2009 and 2010 seasons, which were at that time the worst seasons you could even imagine. I mean, I would say the worst seasons in team history, but they had only at that point been around for 4 years. But I mean, we went down to spring training in 2009. There was barely anybody there. You could do whatever you wanted. It was they were a terrible franchise at that point. They had no prospects of winning until they then drafted Steven Strasburg, Bryce Harper. Things started to turn around. Well, Philadelphia is not that far from D.C. It's only about 2 hours. It's much closer than Chicago, but it's still a drive. Whenever the Phillies would come down to play in D.C., it would be exactly the same experience as what happens when the Cubs come down to Great American Ballpark, where it is all Cubs fans to the point where when a Cubs player does something good, you have that thought in the back of your mind, is he going to go take a curtain call at an opposing ballpark? So the Nationals ran this promotion, and I think 2012, and they called it the Take Back the Park promotion, and they basically just promoted the hell out of this weekend, this one weekend in May of 2012, where the Phillies were coming to town, and they flooded the park with Nats fans. They ended up making the playoffs that year, and it's been even ever since. I mean, it's or obviously in favor of the Nats ever since, with now the Phillies being a little better as a franchise. But at that point, it was a Nationals run through the NL East for the next few years. And I think about that a lot when I go down to Great American and they're playing the Cubs, and it is just flooded with the blue of the Cubs. And you're thinking, what are they going to do one day when they have to do when they're good enough to be in a position to do a Take Back the Park type promotion, which at the time sounded cheesy, but it did work. And no hate on that end as a Nationals fan. Then no hate there. But at some point, if you're the Reds, you're going to have to do something about this, because it is always the Cubs. And I don't really have a stake in the game. I always just kind of get a kick out of it, but it is what it is. At some point, you're going to have to make a move there.
So what did they do in D.C. to make sure that it was the Nats fans that actually got in the park?
I'd have to go back and look and see if maybe they made it harder for Phillies fans to buy ticket. Did one of those things where geo-fenced the tickets or what?
Yeah. Tracy Jones is a big fan of geo-fencing tickets.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I don't remember what they did. I don't know if they made it easier if you had a national zip code to buy tickets. I don't remember what they did. I could go back and look. I remember they wrote an article about it. But I just remember that they made it extremely easy for anybody that was a Nationals fan to get in the park, and they packed it out. And it was a great weekend. It was a lot of fun. I don't remember how the Nats played, but it was a lot of fun. But the Reds got to do something there. They got to do something.
Yeah, and I see in the chat we're getting into this debate of whether or not Cincinnati is a baseball town. The fact that Reds opening day is on Thursday, and the fact that I would like to keep what I would consider the vibes at a relatively high, positive high, is I've been disappointed in the past by the Reds, the Reds fans' commitment to going to the ballpark when they were good. I'm not going to tell anyone how to spend their money. I'm not going to tell anyone that they have to go down there, but there's no question about it. Even when the Reds were good, there was still a large amount of fans that would be there from St. Louis and also from Chicago. So I digress. I'm not going to get into how they could fix it, but I do think that there's something to be said about the idea of this year doing some different things. One thing that I don't know if you've seen, but the Guardians did the $50 standing room only tickets. Did we talk about Did we talk about that on Friday, I believe? Maybe not. You weren't here, right?
No.
But The Reds have enough standing room only spots to do something similar to what the Cleveland Guardians did, which is for $50 a month, you can go in there every day, get a ticket as a standing room only, and it only costs you $50 for the whole entire month. That's obviously also a ploy and a play on the idea of just getting people into the ballpark to then make money off concessions, which has always been one of those weird things that I have never really delved into the finances on, because Aramark is the company behind the scenes that actually manages and runs all of the concession stands. It's not the actual Reds themselves. However, it's a third-party entity, like many third-party entities that big corporations use. I wonder if there's a revenue split that comes from that comes back to the Reds. But I also wonder if it's just a flat fee that they get every month to be a part of, basically to have the rights, if you will, to sell food and beverage inside of Great American Ballpark. Do you feel like that would even work in a city like this? I would think that $50 a month would actually, how do I say this? If you live downtown, I think it's worth it. But for the vast majority of people, they're going to look at $50 a month like I would, and they're going to say, I'm only going to be able to get down there 2 times at most, 3 times maybe at most.
At most.
At most. 3 times a month at most. That puts me at whatever. I'm looking at least $15, maybe $20 a ticket based off how many times I go within a month. And then you add that up to the fact that you can just, as you've said before, get a ticket for $10 and get in there anyways. I don't know if it's worth it. The other thing that it would do, though, if you made standing room only for $50 a month, is it would put a lot of pressure on the ushers. It would. I mean, now, whether or not that's a big deal or not, I don't know, but trust me, you're not the only one that buys a ticket and just walks wherever you want and sits down.
Yeah.
So you imagine being able to get $50, all you can get tickets for $50 a month. And by all you can get tickets, I mean you can go to the game every single day that they're home, 1 ticket per person.
If you lived at the Banks in one of those apartments and you were like a
fan.
If you were under 40 years old and you lived at the Banks in one of those apartment complexes, or if you lived close enough that it wasn't such an inconvenience to go down there, then I think it'd be worth it. Like if I lived above Tin Roof or Holy Grail, I would probably pay that and just go over there every night for a few innings. But outside of that, having to drive down there, no chance. There's no chance I'd make it to. I would not make it to enough games to make it worth it.
You know, one thing about ushers really quickly while we're on the subject that kind of irritates me, and they have a job. I don't have anything against them. They have a job, and some of them take it very seriously, and maybe they should. But also feel the room. Read the room, right? Like, similar to what I said at the beginning of the show with the referee, know the situation. If there's 5,000 people at the ballpark, okay, we're not checking tickets. You just don't. If someone's causing an issue or someone has a ticket and they go to try to sit in said ticket and the people that are in the seats of that person of said ticket don't want to move, then you do your job. But for the vast majority of people that go down there right now and they want to sit wherever they want to sit, just let them sit there if they're not bothering anybody. Maybe that's the wrong take, but my gosh, dude, it's like you try to go sit out in the moon deck and just enjoy your day. And I've had it happen before where I've had tickets, not I want to say it in the infield box or whatever, like the field box, whatever they call it, in the quote unquote better seats. And I just want to walk around. I want to check out different views of the ballpark. I'm just trying to really leisurely enjoy my day. And I just want to sit down for whatever, a half inning and watch a game from a different spot. And you got guys out here like, let me see your ticket. It's like, dude, there's 5,000 people in here. But you don't want to seem like an asshole, like you're not a rule follower. So you can't really argue with them, right? You just gotta bite your tongue and move on.
No, you do what I do. Oh no, I lost my ticket. I'm sorry, man. Let me go see if I dropped it up there. And then you walk to a different section. That's what I do.
Paul,
you're looking in the ticket. I've only ever had that one time with the Reds.
Seasoned professional. at doing this. Clearly, he's got takes. He's got ways. He's got a way to be able to get himself in and out of situations. That's a true conman.
And you got to be friendly with the usher when you walk down there the first time. You walk down the first time with food in your hand, so you can't reach in for your ticket. So you walk in, you're going to get food anyway. So you walk in, you got food in your hand. And they don't ever bother you if you got food in your hand because they don't want to make you put it down. You got maybe a beer or whatever. So you walk in, and then you're super friendly with the usher. You're like, hey, how are you? And then when the first time you go up and you walk to the bathroom, hey, how you doing? And then they remember your face. They remember you were sitting there. And you just keep walking back down to your own seat. Oh, yeah. It's a system. It's a science. It's not that hard. All it takes is being friendly to a stranger. And they'll help you out. They're glad you're there. They want support. They're glad you're there. Come on, everybody. We're good.
The other thing about ushers, and I will move on from another subject after this point, is that I don't need my seat wiped down. I know that's part of the job. But nothing worse than not having cash, which I don't carry cash. And the usher takes your ticket and then rushes down to your seat, cleans your seat off for you. And they they're expecting a tip. I mean, they 100% in their mind are like, I'm going to get a tip from this, or I should. And when they don't, and rightfully so, maybe I shouldn't feel as bad. But when they don't inevitably get a tip from me because I don't have cash on me, I feel like I'm a bad guy. And I'm the one there trying to support the team.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
I don't ever carry cash. No, I don't ever carry cash. That's tough.
Favorite thing in the ball. By the way, Casey McAllister.
Yeah.
How many games have you truly been to? And this isn't like a ploy of whether or not you're a bad person or not. Genuinely, how many baseball games have you been to in the past 5 years?
Reds baseball?
Yes. At Great American Ballpark.
The last 5 years, I could have a lot more if it was past 10 years. If it was past 10 years, I've probably been to like 10. Past 5 years, it's probably like 2. Maybe.
And when you went to these said games, there was little to no enjoyment there, or it just kind of is what it is. Like, would it be like me going to an FCC game where I'm just kind of sitting there and I'm just looking around? I'm like, oh, this is a neat stadium, but outside of that,
I would say the majority of those tickets were nosebleeds. So you're not getting really a great perspective of the game, but a lot of it was with family or friends, and for someone that didn't really care about baseball too much, you're just sitting there chit-chatting about other stuff. And when something happens, you cheer and whatnot. But most of the games I went to, not full. The last game I went to was the Zoo Day at the Reds Stadium. And it was actually kind of full, and it wasn't too bad of a game until like the 7th, 8th inning when they really started to lose. But
the zoo, what is the Zoo Day? Like the zoo employees?
The zoo employees will bring some of the smaller animals like snakes and turtles. And yeah, they bring like the eagle and whatnot. And
snakes?
Yeah.
No.
What do they do? Let them slither around on the infield?
Well, they'll do so. I'm surprised you never heard of this. So they go out from the outfield and they walk the entire stretch of the baseball diamond.
Snake on a leash?
No, they're carrying it like by hand. It's not like it's like crazy or anything.
Well, I mean, I'm just trying to get the concept of like they got like a boa constrictor like just hanging over their neck.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And they got other animals, other reptiles, and other mammals, and
now that would make Boom Shakalaka or Everett makes a great point. That would make the Reds game interesting. You throw a little billy goat out there and just let him run. Go out in the outfield. Players got to navigate their way around a boa constrictor. Maybe an eagle flies down, perches himself out on the outfield grass. Why not? Now we're talking. Now we're talking about serious entertainment.
Could you imagine
Harambe just chilling in the bleachers? Hey, man, Silverback.
Can you imagine throwing two boas out in the middle of the outfield and they just are there the whole game? One, PETA would be on that ass in a heartbeat. Two, Two, that would be the most entertaining baseball game in the history of baseball games. Could you imagine the center fielder starting to get strangled after going for a ball because he dove and laid out and he just happened to land right next to a boa? That's funny, but probably there's a reason they don't do it. I don't know. Why do we find so much enjoyment, perhaps, and funniness out of other people's severe danger? I don't know. Human beings are weird. We're a different creature. I don't want to talk too long on this because I said I wouldn't, but I genuinely can't believe you think that the Bengals are going to bring back Joe Mixon for $12 million. Well, have you been brainwashed by Zim or what?
No, it just makes too much sense because they've said time and time again. Why would we think?
What sense does it make?
Why would we think anything differently of a guy that's been a leader in this locker room who's been here since day one? They don't generally cut people. That's not their MO. They don't generally restructure contracts. They usually honor agreements. And on top of that, Joe Mixon, you're not going to find a Joe Mixon. He's not lost a step.
Oh, please.
He's not. And
hasn't lost a step.
The only thing that Bengals fans are trying to do is replace Samaje. And I totally agree. We should replace a guy Samaje's caliber with Ezekiel Elliott. But let's not sit here and act like you're going to find a guy in the draft that's going to fill in all those needs, who's going to be better than Joe Mixon running the football, catching the football, and pass blocking. Because, one, most of these guys can't pass block right out of college.
Neither can Joe Mixon.
That's what I'm saying is why are we looking for a guy in the second round or even the first round for that matter? Why are we looking at Gibbs? It doesn't make any sense. Joe Mixon's a top 10 pass catching back already as it is.
Are you suggesting that Gibbs wouldn't be an upgrade over Mixon right now?
I'm saying that it'd be
say it out loud.
You'd be very hard pressed to have Mixon not be your starting running back. You'd be very hard pressed.
I can't do it.
I even went as far as to look at the numbers compared to the offensive line. You know that we ran probably like 60% of the run plays to the left side.
Casey?
Where we have the smallest tackle in the whole NFL.
Talk to me, Casey.
Who can't pass block, who can't run block. Oh my gosh, I can't stand Jonah Williams at this point. I've done too much research into this. He got hit in the backfield way too many times. I can't tell you how many times he got hit in the backfield. I don't have all the stuff I researched in front of me, but every time he ran to the left side, before he even hit the line of scrimmage, he's probably getting tackled. I'll just put it like that. You run to the right side? Yeah, sure. Well, guess what? When we started losing guys on the right side, Joe Mixon started doing worse. It kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
So you're saying a guy that you're going to pay $12 million
I'm not saying
his only chance of success is predicated off of other guys, which is obvious when it comes to offensive line and running backs to a certain extent. But you're discrediting his talent by basically saying that it was because of the line as to why he wasn't successful or was successful. It's as simple as that. So go out and find a guy that doesn't cost $12 million and move on.
No. Because if you do
I want you to say something out loud, though, just so we have it on record.
Yeah.
You think that Gibbs is not going to be a better weapon than Joe Mixon this upcoming year?
As a rookie?
Yeah. Basically, if you're going to pass on Gibbs as a running back, you are also then foregoing his whole rookie contract. But just for the sake of argument, for this upcoming season, I'll even give you that. You think that Joe Mixon is a better option and a more talented weapon than Gibbs?
Correct. At this very moment.
All right. Well, we'll find out. We'll see.
Now, I'm not saying that they shouldn't try to restructure, but they're just not going to. Like, I'm not.
You're telling me if Joe
Yeah.
and Sir Boy Wonder has a super chat, and he's trying to get us off the subject. I get it. I want to get off the subject too, but I just can't believe this is where we're at. I cannot believe and fathom that smart people like you, Casey McAllister, are going to suggest one iota that Joe Mixon is going to get paid $12 million to run the football for the Cincinnati Bengals when he didn't even play half the snaps in the most meaningful game of the year, and the guy that you just let walk right over to Denver walked out the door for $7 million.
I'm not telling
$12 million is a joke.
I'm not telling you that's what they should do. I'm telling you that's that they're going to do. That's what they're going to do. I don't believe that Joe Mixon should be paid $12 million, but it doesn't make sense. There's not enough there for Bengals fans to be like, oh, they should cut him. Why haven't they cut him yet? They're just not going to. It's not the Bengals' MO. So we should just move on from that. It's tired. They're going to have Joe Mixon on the roster next season.
That's a shame. Because I think one thing that Bengal fans are going to come to realize, and they're going to realize fast, is that P. Ryan is a hell of a player.
I agree with that.
P. Ryan is the best running back they had last year. Take the numbers off the jersey, take the name off the back, take the preconceived notions, and you will, without a doubt, when you watch the game, say, I want Samaje P. Ryan running the football over that other guy. That's nothing against Joe Mixon. He's a fine player. But all of these guys, they fall off cliffs, man. Running backs don't slowly decline over years. They fall off cliffs. Let's not act like Joe Mixon isn't getting another year older either. I just don't understand how $12 million is even a realistic. It's not. That's not even on it. It's not even on the table. It's not even on the table.
Can I reformulate my opinion on this? Because I do think is that $12 million is too much for Joe Mixon. I don't think the Bengals will cut him. I don't think that is in the cards for them. I do think they'll try to restructure. He'll probably say no. They'll try to get a running back in the 4th through 6th rounds or the 7th round. It doesn't matter. They're going to not spend a premium pick, more than likely. And if they do spend a premium pick, that player is not going to get the starting snaps. He's not going to play better than Joe Mixon.
But here's and I'm not suggesting that the Bengals are doomed. They have they have Joe Burrow, excuse me. But I also think it shouldn't go unsaid that you let two safeties that are important to your team walk largely because of money. And you're going to sit around here and tell me that it's just not a big deal that we're going to keep a guy around here for $12 million to run the football when he proved last year that unless he has a great offensive line or he's getting one hell of a hole opened, he's not making guys miss in the backfield and doing what you're going to have inevitably next year.
You're not hearing what I said, Trace. I said that I think $12 million is too much, but the Bengals will not cut him.
So inevitably you're saying that is a major problem to me then.
Yes, I think that I agree with that too. I think that is a problem, but it's just a matter of fact, and people should just get over it. That's just not the Bengals' MO. It's not what they do, and they don't cut leaders.
I'm going to say something that's disrespectful to Joe Mixon, and I don't mean it that way, but give me a break on the leadership bullshit with Joe Mixon, okay? Joe Burrow doesn't walk through those doors, and Mixon ain't shit. He isn't. He's a dime a dozen running back in this league. That's what he is, man. I watch the league a good enough of it to know. I don't watch Bengals games and think, Joe Mixon, oh my God, that guy's a game wrecker. He's a game changer. Let's pay him. There's only like 2 or 3 of those running backs in the entire league. And I don't even have anything against Joe. It's not, I see some people comments today, I don't have anything against his character. I think he's been a great person. I think he's played incredibly well when he's been here for a certain extent. But I'm not going to sit here and act like that's even remotely okay. because it's not. And as far as honoring contracts and all that stuff, I mean, that's all nice and well and good. But at the end of the day, what's it really matter? It doesn't. It doesn't. And you know why it doesn't? Because you had 2 guys that were important to you, 3 guys that were important to you that walked right out the door. So as far as that quote unquote, we do things the right way. Well, I mean, you might have do things the right way. Dax Hill didn't care about it. Jesse Bates didn't care about it.
I think you meant Von Bell, but
Who did I say?
you said Dax Hill.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You drafted Dax Hill.
Yeah.
Von Bell. Excuse me. I just cannot believe that the Bengals are even I don't know. Maybe they're trying to renegotiate the deal to be fair to the Bengals. Maybe this is taking longer than they wanted to. But I'm going to tell you right now,
And I'm not saying it because I'm happy about this either. I'm just saying it because I want you guys to just.
and that's fair.
Come to grips with it.
Lure Up says that he disagrees. If you want to build a team, you have to show some loyalty. Okay, well, the dynasty of the NFL, the team that's shown everyone else that they can win Super Bowls time and time and time again. Yeah, you could say it was Tom Brady. It was the Patriots. Did the Patriots show loyalty to anybody? What did they do with running backs? They literally shoveled them out. They had running backs that would run for 200 yards in a game, and they literally wouldn't even play but 2 snaps the next week. So before we sit here and act like loyalty matters, it just doesn't. As much as we would all want it to matter, I don't think it matters one iota. It doesn't matter when it comes to winning football games. It doesn't. The Chiefs got rid of Tyreek Hill, and guess what? They still figured it out. They have no running backs. They bring in Pikachu. Next thing you know, Pikachu looks like a star. I'm telling you, man. I hope I'm wrong for the Bengals' sake, but it's been a bad offseason. You could say whatever you want. They've lost a bunch of guys that are relatively meaningful to that roster. And as far as quote-unquote replacing those guys, yeah, maybe there's a plan in place to replace them, but they've not done it yet. And until they replace them, because you could sit here and say the draft, you might replace some guys from the draft, but how many of these guys are actually going to be, starters day one, impact players? Maybe one guy from this draft, maybe 2. I don't know. I mean, we all want, and I say we all as if Bengals fandom for the most part, I feel like they would take DeJuan Jones right now, right? Would we agree with that?
Well, I think that opinion is
Waning.
because of his pro day. He showed up apparently kind of overweight.
Gotcha. Just like your tackle from the Oklahoma that everybody was down about, and just so happens to be the biggest signing Orlando Brown Jr.
I know, Trace.
So
I'm just
go ahead.
saying. I'm just saying a lot of Bengals fans that are more prominent on Twitter, like Joe Goodberry and other guys, are waning off of that take. I would still take them based off of just film. That's my take on that. But I think now what most people are saying is just BPA, which could be tight end, could be corner, could be edge rusher, could be tackle.
Michael Mayer.
But
Okay. Well, we'll find out. If I was a Bengals fan, I'd be a little concerned, because if you're not going to spend the money on bringing some of those guys back that are relatively important, or at least you would consider important, then what's the point of saving money? I guess it's to sign Joe Burrow.
you're right. I agree with that.
I mean, it's cool to have a bunch of money in the bank, but if you never go to the bank to get any of the money out, then what's it matter how much money you have in the bank?
I agree with that.
It doesn't. So we'll see. I mean, the Bengals are in a good spot because they got all their star players on the rookie contracts. We all know this. But if you don't take advantage of it, then it's relatively worthless. We'll find out whether or not. I don't know. I just. You know what it reminds me of? I get passionate about it because I do think that this is what happens in Cincinnati for some reason. It doesn't happen in other towns. We fall in love with these specific players and we hold on to them too long. That's why the Reds are in the position they're in. You hold on to Jay Bruce until there's literally no value. You hold on to all of those guys from that class until there's no value. And now we're going to sit around and we're going to hold on to a guy just because he's a quote-unquote leader in the clubhouse and he's been here from the start. And I'm not taking anything away from that. I'm not trying to be, for the most part, an ill-hearted asshole. But I also am going to be realistic and tell you that Joe Mixon is literally an average running back at best in this league. Average at best. So that's here nor there.
Agree to disagree on that, but
we'll find out. I mean, if he was so damn important, then he would have been in the game when the games mattered the most in Kansas City, and he wasn't. So then, if that's the case, if you're telling me that he is that guy, then you have a severe issue on the offensive side of the ball. Who's calling plays? It's either Zach Taylor and or Callahan. Whose problem is it?
I would say it's play calling, but that's a whole different discussion.
All right. Well, the beautiful thing is we get to find out. That's why they play the games. This is one big old soap opera. All right. Final notes of the day. Tom, as we've said many times before, but we'll reiterate this. Tom is out this week. He is on spring break with his son. They are enjoying, I think, another lavish vacation with a bunch of families. I was talking outside of the office. I don't know how many of you are, and it doesn't mean I don't enjoy company because I do. But I'm not much of a vacation goer in a big house with a bunch of families type of guy. It just seems as if you always got to pander to everyone else, and you got to figure out what everyone else is thinking. You don't want to overstep your bounds. It's like, hey, what are we going to do for breakfast? And then it's got to be this long, drawn-out conversation. Same with dinner. Then you inevitably got to kind of socialize from time to time with people that you otherwise probably wouldn't. Thoughts on that?
I've never done it. I've never done like a big – obviously like gone to a beach house with my family and cousins and everybody, and we've all gotten together. But as far as like friends and a big group of people, never done it. It's funny you bring that up. On the way home from Kansas City on Saturday, we were talking about Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And I was saying how I went to Gatlinburg 2 years ago with Lizzie, my girlfriend. She and I went down there for a few days, and I had never been, and I have no interest in going back. I didn't enjoy it. I liked Gatlinburg better than I liked Pigeon Forge. We stayed in a cabin in Gatlinburg, but I didn't really like it. I thought it was kind of touristy, whatever. But I did say if we went back, I would enjoy going with a big group of friends, and you get a cabin, and you make more of like a cabin, big group, fun experience out of it. But I've never done I guess like my family, we never did if we went on vacation like I talked about last week, like our family vacations were my dad would have a conference in Colorado, and my mom would say, "Hey Paul, the three of us, you, me, I'm an only child, so the three of us could go out and have a vacation together." That was the family vacation. We didn't get together with a bunch of families and go down into the woods or do anything like that. But I don't know. It seems like it'd be a lot of work. It seems like, because my experience of it, like going with the family to the beach, is you can just all go to the beach, you come back, you're a little tired, you take some showers, get the sand off, you cook some dinner outside, have a beer or something, have some fun. But I don't know. Where did he go? Was it?
I don't know the city off the top of my head. I know it was down south, pretty good. I believe in Florida. Boca Raton. I've almost
FAU? Boca Raton?
I don't think it's
FAU.
I almost think that FAU's got that city ingrained in my head, so I don't think it's right. Do you know Casey? Casey might know.
I didn't think it was Florida.
It's not Florida. Maybe it's not Florida. I don't know. Trace doesn't know relatively anything at this point. I'm just trying to keep going. The Joe Mixon thing really has my brain in scrambled eggs mode, because I just can't believe that it's even up for debate that he's going to get paid what he's expected to get paid this upcoming year. And we're going to get off this subject and topic. I'm not going to do it again. But I don't know. You're saying it's not in Florida.
Were you guys speculating where Tom's going?
Yeah.
Yes. Where is it? You know.
He's going to the DR, the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
So he's going big league.
10 families down to the DR.
You couldn't pay me enough to do that. You literally could not pay me to go on a trip with 10 other families to another country. Not happening. It's not happening. I mean, maybe those 10 families are great, but I'm just saying. There's way too many dynamics at play there. All it takes
It's a tourist area, right? It's
all
not
it-
like it's not like you're going into something where it's super hard to navigate,
Where?
right? The Dominican Republic,
Oh,
like the area that he's
never-
going
never
to.
been.
It's not like
All-inclusive resort.
yeah.
Brenny.
And you know, hopefully my wife never takes me down to the DR because I will absolutely want to leave a resort or wherever we're staying and find a ball game. Just some pickup ball game that kids like, these little 13-year-old kids, because I just want to sit there and watch it. In my mind, that's what the Dominican Republic is. It's just a bunch of 13-year-old kids playing baseball out in the corner, out in the field.
Is your mic plugged in?
Yeah.
You sure?
Uh-oh.
Now it is.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Mics are smashing the chat.
Mike's all over in the chat.
Mike's all over in the chat. Casey had him muted.
No, I didn't. I had
Casey
him unmuted.
Casey pulled the
you want me to unplug it and plug it back
no,
in?
I can hear you now. I think it's working. Casey pulled the trick of this. You know, we've all done it. We've all been there. He pulled the trick, which is you sit down in a seat. We'll bring this Usher's topic back up one more time. Box Lunch is going to be hosted and produced and ran by none other than Reed Mouse today. We'll see what kind of takes he has. But to bring Usher's back into the fold, when you're sitting in said wrong seat and you know you're not in the right seat, and the usher comes down and he's like, "Hey, I need to see your ticket," and you know you're in the wrong seat, you pull the this isn't my seat. This isn't my seat. I thought this was section 124. Oh, this is only whatever, section 10. And next thing you know, you're just getting out of there. I'm pretty sure, and I don't want to put you on the spot, Casey, but I think Casey, he had one of those buttons muted and he's like, "Oh, is your mic plugged in?" Tell the truth, Casey.
That is not what happened.
This thing was plugged in. This thing is plugged in. You know what's funny about you guys talking about sneaking down and getting better seats? My wife, Mariana, spazzes out when we do that. I mean, there's not a person who looks more guilty than my wife when we're sitting down in the front. I mean, we'll sit up there. There'll be 1,000 people in the stadium, and she's doing one of these the entire time. Any person that comes near our section, she's like, "Are they going to sit in this seat? Are they going to sit in this seat?" And I was like, "Mariana, if they do, we just move. I don't like we're not getting arrested here. I mean, like, you literally, if we're sitting in someone's seat, here's what happens. They're going to come up and be like, 'Hey, I think you're sitting in our seat.' And we're like, 'Oh, I'm sorry.' They know the game. They know what's up."
So at Greensboro, so you in the media seating, you have like assigned seats. Everybody has their little name placard on there for your name and your outlet. Well, in Greensboro for the Sunday session, I had a seat across from one of the benches for the Friday game, but on the Sunday game, they had me up in the auxiliary section, which was like behind the basket. Mm-hmm. And usually, if what they'll do, because it's all one session, is they'll have the other team's writers, they'll have a spot for the game. So I'm sitting there thinking, well, I'll just sit in one of the other team's spots. But I'm like, God, there's a lot of writers here. Like, am I going to – so I'm sitting there. The entire court, probably 50, 60 seats of media, I picked the only seat where the guy didn't show up. It was the Louisville Courier-Journal. And I was like, you know what? Kentucky's playing after. Probably not going to show up for this game. Louisville Courier-Journal. Why is this guy going to show up? But the whole time, I'm kind of going, my God, please don't show up. Please don't show up. 3 minutes and 30 seconds left in the game. I feel a tap on the shoulder. "Hey, that's my seat. Can you please get up?" I'm going, oh, my God. Like, that was a point where Xavier wasn't making any shots. Pitt was coming back. It was, like, kind of getting a little dicey. And I'm like, I have nowhere to go. I felt homeless. I had nowhere to go. And somebody like 3 seats down to my left got up. I was good. I had a seat and I just moved. And then, oh my God, I'm sitting there. So I was doing the Mariana the whole time, going, please, nobody show up. Nobody show up.
You can't even sneak down because she like just draws every red flag that the usher sees. I mean, she's looking both ways. It's just like, man,
come on.
Just walk down. Just walk down. If they tell us to leave, we'll go somewhere else.
It's not that big a deal.
Which brings me to my final point. Sometimes blessings are in disguise, right? So one time last year, we were at the Busch Stadium, St. Louis Cardinals home field, for those that aren't familiar with baseball stadium names. And I actually had purchased tickets, and for some weird reason, from the digital's perspective, I won't call out the name of the company because I don't know free ads on the show, but they had an issue with the way the ticket works. So I actually paid for the tickets. The tickets, for whatever reason, weren't scanning appropriately. I didn't have time. I was with my family, obviously, and the last thing you want to be doing with 3 kids and a wife going to a baseball game is sitting there trying to figure out this ticket situation for 30 minutes. I was like, so I just bought a whole new set of tickets, cheapest tickets I could find. They were obviously in the upper deck. The tickets I had previously were kind of in the outfield. So I assumed that the tickets in the outfield were better. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to use the tickets that I had purchased before. Right. I'll go to those. I'll figure it out. Sure enough, to wrap this show up, I go to sit in the outfield, see tickets. I show the guy the receipt, and he's like, well, you got to show me the wallet. Like, it's got to be your tickets. It got to be in your wallet on your phone. I'm like, well, that's my problem. Is it's not going into my wallet. I have it. There's a digital function going on right now. It's not working appropriately. I paid for these tickets. This guy literally didn't let me go and sit down there. I had like a screenshot from my email of saying I bought the tickets. He's like, no, that's not good enough. You could transfer them. Blah blah blah. I'm like, so I at that moment, I had a decision to make. Do I embarrass my whole family and just start laying into this usher? Or do I just go to my other seats, which are in the nosebleeds? So I decided to go into the nosebleeds. And I got to be honest, I actually think the viewing experience was better from the upper deck from where I was at Busch Stadium than what it would have been in the outfield. And I felt the same way when we went to the Chiefs Bengals the AFC Championship game. I had seats a little higher up. I've had end zone seats before at Bengals games. I've been in the lower bowl at Bengals games or football games in general. Being in the upper deck, now not the very, very top, but being in the upper deck, maybe I think I was like 10 rows above the second level in Arrowhead, those were the best football seats I've ever had in my life.
Baseball, it's different because you don't have any depth. When they hit the ball in the air and you're in the top deck, you have no clue if that ball is going 270 feet or 430 feet. Truly. Like, if they hit the ball in the air and you're in the top deck, you don't know where that ball's going. You see the direction it's going, you see it's in the air, but you don't know how far it's going, how well it was hit. You're just reacting to the way that the players are positioning themselves to make the play. But you're right. I mean, you go to GABP, there's not a whole lot of bad seats.
I feel like if you sit in the upper deck, though, to your point, and you watch enough baseball up there, you'll get to feel for how well and not well a ball is hit. Like, I'm not saying it's as good as being in the lower bowl for sure, but
you know the one thing about baseball is you constantly want to go see a good pitcher pitch, but when you're at the game, you don't really notice how well a pitcher's pitching. Yeah. You can't see the pitches really well unless you're close to the field, so you really can't see Max Scherzer dealing out there or something like that.
I also think that one of the biggest myths that come with baseball is the term or the phrase of, well, he made 3 mistakes. He only made 3 mistakes this game. Talking about pitchers when they give up a home run. It's like, that's not true. I mean, guys are missing their spots all the time. It's just whether or not the hitters execute or not execute. Sure. And is there certain games where pitchers do throw well and they don't miss as many spots as they normally would, or they don't miss hardly any spots all game? Yes, but I've never heard of a quote-unquote sports phrase overused as much as I hear at the end of a baseball game. He pitched great, just made 4 mistakes. It's like, no, he probably made 30 mistakes and 4 of them were capitalized on. I'm going to end the show on this. Best place to watch Reds baseball in Great American Ballpark, and you can't use the diamond seats and you can't use like the dugout box. That's not fair. I feel like we gotta, or I guess it's an opinion-based thing. Favorite place to watch it from, and what do we do on opening day? Do we go in the park or do we not go in the park? Do we make that decision today or do we wait? We don't have to make that decision today. I don't think we should. But I'm going to start. I am going to say my favorite spot to watch a game at Great American Ballpark is the mezzanine.
I like left field. I like sitting by the bullpen. I'm an outfield guy.
Yeah?
I'm an outfield guy.
The left field used to stink before they put the new video board in right field up.
Right, yeah. You always had to.
Well, you couldn't
turn
see
your
it if
neck.
you were 5 rows back.
Right,
And,
always had to turn your neck. So there's a spot now where the handlebar is. I think I told you this, guys, and I'm gonna utilize this for Cubs games this year. At the handlebar down there in the first base line, it's $75 a ticket. You get a buffet before and during the game, and you get 6 alcoholic drinks for your $75 ticket. I don't know about you guys, but that's a hell of a deal.
Say it again.
You get a buffet before and during the game,
Yep.
and you sit in the handlebar, so you get those like lounge seats, like they're chairs. They're not regular seats, they're lounge. And then you get 6 alcoholic drinks during the game with your $75 ticket. So as Tom would say, you can get tanked up watching the Reds.
That's not terrible. 75 for a baseball game, though, is where you're going to lose some people. There's like, I don't really.
Yeah.
I mean, my man Paul over here is getting in the game for $10. He's spending $20 on the way out, and you're asking him to pay $75, so it's probably not going to fly.
Well, I would, if you're getting the food and like a nice, comfortable seat and all that.
They're couches.
Like
you sit in couches.
Wait, am I picturing
The handlebar. Down the first base line.
Yeah.
Where the restaurant used to be.
Okay. All right. I'm
the middle deck.
I think I'm picturing the wrong. Yeah. I used to sit in those seats. Like I would buy it and you'd get all you can eat, but I wouldn't sit in a couch. I would just sit in the seats over there. I like those, but I would pay like 30 or 40. Wouldn't pay 75.
Boom Shakalaka drops into the chat. Says Paul's walking up and down the aisles looking to see if there's any food that people.
No, I don't do that, but I do collect the souvenir cups people leave behind.
When I went to Wrigley Field in 2017 after the Cubs won the World Series. They had World Series cups, and I brought back probably 30 moldy because I didn't wash them when I got back to where I was staying. I was staying at a homeless shelter in Chicago, and we brought back like 30 World Series cups.
Oh, yeah. I have a whole collection of Nationals, Reds, souvenir cups forever. Oh, yeah.
I'm pulling up AccuWeather as we speak. Not sure which is the best place to go for your weather. But, my gosh.
Did you ever, you were talking about Busch Stadium earlier. Did you ever hear the story about how it got named Busch Stadium?
I was assuming it's because of Anheuser-Busch.
Right. So Anheuser-Busch, their product for the longest time, their main product was Budweiser. And it was like the 1940s. They wanted to name their park for the Cardinals Budweiser Park. And Major League Baseball said, you're not allowed naming the stadium after beer. Like, we're not going to let you name it after beer. This is kids-friendly, family-friendly, all this stuff. So what they did said, all right, we'll name it after our family name, the Bushes. So they named the stadium Busch Stadium. 2 years later, they launched their new beer line, Busch Beer. Got their way at the end of the day.
Smart. Most smart people, well-off people are well-off because they're relatively intelligent. Most intelligent people find loopholes. Most intelligent people, if they really want something, they'll find a way. Look no farther than the tax system that we currently have. Do the Reds play on April 3rd? Paul?
Monday, yeah. They play the Reds or the Cubs.
At Great American Ballpark?
Correct. Monday.
What time do they play? Is that a day game or is that's obviously probably
it'd be mid in the week, so it'd be.
Are we like a 4
evening game? It'd be a 6 o'clock start. First game of a series.
All right. Well, we got 69 degrees with a 3% chance of rain on Monday.
Okay.
That seems like a good day to go to the ballpark. The other thing is Opening day is obviously going to be busy. You know, opening day, Everett brought up a great point earlier. Opening day has turned into nothing more than just a way to party. That's what it is. For 75% of the people that are down there, it's just an excuse to go have some beverages, enjoy some times with your friends if that's of interest to you. But as far as the game goes, as far as the actual baseball is concerned, it's not that big of a deal to many. Look no farther than probably the 6th or 7th inning, which with the new pitch clock, I'll be interested to see how many crowds stay around with the pitch clock. That'll be I don't know, exciting to see. I don't know. But usually for opening day, it's pretty half empty right around the 7th inning or so.
Yeah.
Depending on weather, of course. And Paul, your weather earlier
said 61 and sunny.
Yep, and mine
Potential partly cloudy.
Mine was yeah. It doesn't look like it's going to rain, and it's going to be 60 degrees. So it's going to be probably a pretty good time down there at Great American. I'm going to try to go in. I want to go in, but I just don't. I'm not going to spend $100 to get in or whatever it's going to take to get in. How much do you think it's going to take to get in?
On Thursday?
Yeah.
Not much.
Yeah, I'd say $25.
I mean,
I'm being dead serious.
I've been this. I'm not trying to flex here. I've been offered free tickets by people that don't, not people that have connections. People are just like, I'm not going.
Are you flexing on us?
Yeah, like that. I opened my mouth and I knew where that was going. I'll just shut up. My point is, I don't think it will be hard.
If you wouldn't have
Yeah.
brought it up first.
My point is, I don't think it'll be hard to get in on Thursday.
All right.
$49 right now is what I'm seeing.
Okay. That's nosebleeds, clearly $49.
Yeah, I just
Maybe that goes up, though, if the weather does end up staying nice. If it's really nice, you're going to have those people that are, down at Holy Grail already, or Moorline, I guess we should probably say. They're down at Moorline on Thursday, and they're going, it's a nice day, or we're going to stand out here. We could go in. Might as well go in.
Yeah, it definitely it's gonna be packed. All right, Off the Bench is wrapping up. Box Lunch is next. Reed Mouse is gonna take it away. Looks like we have some fun topics. The Final Four does not stink. I don't believe in that. We'll see what he has to say. Dear Reds fans, that's gonna be a treat. Let's listen to this propaganda garbage, and maybe he'll say something nice. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll see. But I'll be back. Probably be better tomorrow than I was today. That's my goal. And the goal would be to be better on Wednesday than I will be on Tuesday. I'll come with some insightful information tomorrow. I hope to not talk too long about Joe Mixon. But if you have any interest in what to talk about, throw it in the chat. You'll be on here for a little while. We'll try to keep it entertaining, relatively interesting, and I'll try to be insightful as much as I can be. Because one can only be as insightful as intelligent as they are. And I don't know how intelligent I am because I got C's, but I did realize that C's got degrees, which got me through school. Hopefully my sons will do a little bit better than me, but the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, as they say, when my son's already crying because he's got to go to school on Monday in 2nd grade. It's a long way home, my boy. All right, Reed. Casey, I hope you got that Copyrighted track ready to rock, baby.
I'm getting it ready.
He's getting it ready. Let me fill some more airtime for Casey McAllister while he gets that non-copyrighted music that you are going to just absolutely be ready to jam to the rest of the day. Why can't we just live in a society where you just play music and it's okay for a small sample of time? It would be a lot more fun. Isn't it wild?
Damn musicians
not to
want to get paid.
No, now listen, Reed, I get that. I'm not naive to this. But I think cooler heads could prevail and say, listen, Box Lunch isn't making a bunch of money because of the 12 seconds they're playing music or 30 seconds they're playing music. I think we could all relatively agree to that. I think we could all agree that it's probably somewhat ridiculous that we could hold a party, sell a bunch of alcohol, hire a DJ, and they could play their music all day long, and we would make money because people are enjoying that said music all day long. But somehow that's hard to what I would call govern, so that's okay. But playing some music on YouTube's not good enough. So let's see what Casey has to run. And until next time, I'll see you tomorrow. Am I supposed to have a cherry on top? Do we have a cherry on top or no? We don't have a cherry on top?
Reed is the cherry
By
on
the
top.
way, Reed is the cherry on top. I want to say something. I'm leaving on this, I promise. United Dairy Farmers did re-up. If you have the opportunity to, and I'm not saying do it all at once because that would be obvious. But if you have the opportunity to pump up UDF from time to time, tell them thank you for making what we do possible. Please do. Is it a prop? No. You see, there's grinds at the bottom of this. This isn't no prop cup, by the way. I seen those comments earlier in the show. It gets. Is it drink or drink? It gets drink. I think that's the right term. I'm not sure. That's why I got C's. But nonetheless, Reed Mouse is on his way right after this sweet track.
I must admit, I didn't think much of this show the first time I laid eyes on it. Seemed like a bunch of stiffs wasting nice
The worst
microphones.
trade of all time happened back in 1803. Go ahead. Napoleon Bonaparte traded the Louisiana Purchase for $3 million. Napoleon, what happened? Half the country for $3 million. You can't even get Tucker Barnhart for $3 million.
Then I came to realize
anymore.
these guys are funny.
And Justin Fields have identical stats the last 5 weeks about throwing the football. This guy, okay,
And
folks,
are
is a
some of the
fidget
best
spinner.
gamblers I've come to know.
If you're betting on USC and or TCU, let it be known you are a square.
TCU is going to hammer this team tomorrow night.
I hate to hear that.
Tomorrow
When we come back
afternoon.
in here on Monday, you're going to be happy as a lark because USC lost, but you're going to be wrong about TCU.
Get ready for the most useless hour of your day. It's time for Boxed Lunch, presented by Betfred Sportsbook. Now, Casey, run that track.
That is electric, Casey. That is absolutely electric. Royalty-free music here on Box Lunch. You know what? If we weren't trying to avoid copyright, I would love to use that opening track to culture you guys, to play some great music, because I don't think people truly realize how much great art there is in the world between movies, TV shows, music. There's so much good art in the world. There's nothing that drives me more nuts, and there's nothing on Netflix. What are you talking about? You on HBO Max, you on Netflix, there's so much good stuff. I've been using our drive out to Oxford every day to culture Casey on some music. I was playing him some old school Outkast one day. I haven't gotten to like Conway Twitty or anything like that, but we were playing 70s rock music one day. We're playing soul music another day. We're having a grand old time on our drive up there to Oxford. But this is Box Lunch. It's March 27th. We've got hour, 30 minutes. I don't know how long this show's going to last, and it don't really matter because that's what this whole show's about. I'm Reed Mouse. This show is presented by Betfred Sportsbook, the best sportsbook in Cincinnati, in Ohio even. Paul Fritzner, Casey McAllister, they'll produce this show, guys. Thank you for being a part of this. And I got to start this show off with a quick apology. And there's been a lot to do because I'm a Xavier fan. There's been a lot to do about my Adam Kunkel hate that I've been slinging. And I've got to apologize to not just Adam Kunkel, but all the Xavier fans, because I know he's a fan favorite. And it's not because of Adam Kunkel's play. He still is a terrible basketball player. His leg tattoo is cooler than I think I originally realized. So that's what I want to apologize. He's a cool guy. That leg tattoo is the bee's knees. He's played great. On the weekend, those Xavier lost. So first topic is, guys, this Final Four stinks. And I don't care what college basketball fans will say. This does not move the needle at all. FAU versus San Diego State does not move the needle whatsoever. You get to the point, Trace made this point last week, you want upsets early in the tournament. You want them in the first round. You want them in the second round. You want to see who gets knocked off. But at the end of the day, when you get to the final 3 games, the final 4 in the national championship, you want the best teams. You might want to sprinkle in one. You might want to put in one FAU. You might want to put in San Diego State. You might want to put in the Miami Hurricanes making their first Final Four in history. But you don't want 3 of the 4 teams making the first Final Four. I might be way off base with that, but golly. Now maybe these games turn into barn burners, and then I will retract what I'm saying. But for the week leading up to it, man, I got nothing. Doesn't move the needle for an outside college basketball fan like myself. Now maybe those who are entrenched in it are so excited for this because we're going to see a unique champion unless UConn continues what they've been doing all tournament long. But man, oh man, one of the teams, San Diego State, who's making from the Mountain West, congrats to the Mountain West on making the Final Four. Their 2 most famous alumni basketball players for San Diego State weren't even known for playing basketball. Trace brought up Tony Gwynn. Antonio Gates played for San Diego State too, right?
Oh, did he? I didn't know that. That's funny.
So they're 2 most famous college basketball players from San Diego State.
Yeah, he did.
Are Antonio Gates and Tony Gwynn, who became Hall of Famers in other sports. Florida Atlantic, I will say this about Florida.
No. Antonio Gates went to Kent State. Who are you thinking of?
Tony Gonzalez? Where'd Tony play? Both of those.
You're on the right track. It's not Antonio Gates, though.
Okay.
But I get the point.
That's why we got to do a little
Kawhi Leonard, though.
Kawhi. Okay, I'll back off on the
Kawhi
claw.
Leonard, though.
The claw.
Right? Yeah.
Anyone want to take a guess? Anyone want to take a stab at a Kawhi Leonard laugh? What an interesting figure, Kawhi Leonard. That ball is still bouncing. That Game 7 ball. One of the last times that I really sat down and watched an NBA game, which, by the way, is an incredible product if you guys don't watch it. And then Florida Atlantic. Man, I am happy for them to be there. But come on. I will say this about Florida Atlantic. Everyone wrote them off in the first game. If you remember, the talk leading into the tournament is, man, Memphis is going to beat Purdue in the second round. Purdue isn't going to make it out of the second round because they're going to lose to Memphis. And neither Purdue nor Memphis won in the first round. FAU goes on. They were losing to Tennessee in the second half. Come back and win. So congrats to the Owl. Now, Paul, as our college basketball insider, our lanky basketball analyst.
Yeah.
Try to explain to me why I should be excited for this Final Four.
Well, so here's the thing. Again, it's not the name brand. FAU was wildly underseeded. They probably should. You could have convinced me that FAU was a 5 seed. They probably should have been a 6 seed. They ended up as a 9 seed. They missed it by probably 3 seed lines. Whatever. They got to where they played to where they deserved to be in the Final Four. They earned it. I really hope it's FAU and UConn in the title game. San Diego State just plays such an ugly, undesirable
D.
They play such a ugly, undesirable style of basketball that it's going to turn into that Butler-UConn game. If San Diego State wins that Butler-UConn game from, I think, 2014, which was the worst national championship game of our lifetimes, that was terrible. So I do hope that FAU wins. And then on the flip side, crowd-wise, I hope it's UConn. Big East-wise, I hope it's UConn. Miami wins, though. I don't really think you have like a losing game on Monday if FAU wins because either one of those teams comes out. There's a chance, though, that UConn wins both of these games by 30+.
Will Dusty May get a job? Will he be on another team next week?
So it's funny you bring that up. Somebody tweeted last night, Providence hired Kim English. They could have waited a week and gotten Dusty May. I don't know. I'm really bad about what coaches are prospects at other jobs. When a job comes open, a lot of times I'll get asked, well, who do you think is going to this? I don't know the assistants. I don't know all of those things as well as some of these other guys do, to the point where I'm assuming if a guy like, what was his name at Fairleigh Dickinson? Tobin Anderson. If he gets a job within a day, I'm guessing Dusty May will go somewhere. But what that looks like now, I mean, Notre Dame's filled. Providence is filled. All the Big East jobs now are filled. I don't know what big job at this point is going to come open that Dusty would get. So maybe he goes somewhere, but maybe he sticks it out one more year. His stock would never be higher, though. But to answer your question, why you should care about this game, this FAU-San Diego State game is going to be ugly. It is going to be ugly. Got to hope FAU wins. And then on the other side, there is a legitimate chance UConn pulls a 2018 Villanova and wins every game by double digits, and it was never even close.
Yeah, so let's go into UConn, that is the wagon, and what they've been able to do. I looked this up, and I believe I put it in the chat earlier. They are averaging almost 23 points. That's the margin of victory through the first 4 games. All time, you ready for this? These are the 5 best tournament runs in NCAA tournament history.
Okay.
Number 1 is Kentucky. They averaged 21.5 points. They win by 21.5 points a game. North Carolina in 2009 won by 20. Villanova's on there twice, 2016, 2018. They've averaged win 19 and 17.7. And then the Running Rebels from Las Vegas won by an average of 18.7. UConn is currently eclipsing that. And you got to remember, at least for Kentucky and North Carolina, the 2 top teams on this list, they won their first game in the tournament. North Carolina won their first game in the tournament by like 45 over Radford. I brought that game up earlier. It was like 105-60. And then Kentucky did the same in their first game. That was when the 16 versus 1 seeds were absolute bloodbaths, as opposed to where they're like 20-point games now, at least a little more manageable. UConn is absolutely wiping the floor with the teams that they're playing. And I think we are forgetting. I brought this up on the show last week to you, Paul.
Yep.
I brought this up to Tom. I've said it multiple times. Are we forgetting what UConn looked like before January 1? Number 2 team in the country, and beating everyone by double digits. Completely wiping the floor. Then they lose to Xavier at the Centos Center and lose about, I think, 5 games over the next 3 weeks. And then everyone just wrote them off. This UConn team wasn't as good as we thought they were. Slowly roared back. Come in. They play Iona. Wipe the floor with them. Who'd they play in the second round? They played Gonzaga.
They went Iona. I mean, Iona played, a credit to Rick Pitino. They played them closer than anybody. Iona was winning that game at halftime.
Yeah. They beat St. Mary's by 15. That's their closest margin of victory. They won by 15. Arkansas and Gonzaga never in the game. Never in the game for the Sweet 16 Elite Eight. They were an absolute wagon this past weekend. And you're right. They were losing at halftime against Iona and then came on out in the second half and just wiped the floor. Are we seeing what could be the greatest run in college basketball history? Or is the fact that they don't have to play a 1 seed along the way damning to that run?
No, I don't think so. I think it doesn't matter because you just play the teams in front of you, and it doesn't matter at that point. If you're going to win every game by 22.5 points, you deserve to have the greatest college basketball tournament run of all time, and that's exactly what UConn is doing. Miami is clearly no slouch. They will put up I think they'll put up a fight. I don't think this UConn-Miami game is going to be a walkover. But if UConn gets to the final, I mean, they could win that final by 30+. Although we said the same thing with San Diego State and Alabama, and that didn't happen. So we'll see.
All right, let's put on our capping hat right here. UConn beats Miami. Doesn't matter what they win by.
Yeah.
If they play San Diego State, what's the spread on that? Is it double digits?
No, I don't think so. I think it would be somewhere in the 7 to 8 range.
And then FAU would be double digits, right?
Probably because
like
they play
right at 10.
I would think so. Do they have look ahead lines? They might.
They might not. I have not checked Betfred Sportsbook.
I have not.
And I'll give Sir Boy credit. Miami has looked very sharp. That UConn Miami game might be, for as ugly as San Diego State FAU might be, UConn Miami might just be incredibly entertaining. The way that Miami plays, getting up and down the floor, jumping every passing lane, very fun. And man, UConn. Remember that New Year's Eve game, Dan Hurley? Did he get a technical?
Yeah. Cost him that game.
Got a technical.
Got attacked. Something had to have been going on within the UConn locker room or something in that month, because between December 31st, when Xavier beat UConn the first time, and January 25th, I think it was, when Xavier beat UConn the second time, they look like a different team. They look broken. They look like they had no idea what they were doing. Before then and since then, they've looked almost unbeatable, save for that loss in the Big East tournament to Marquette.
Yeah.
But they took 8 losses in Big East play. They haven't lost to anybody outside the Big East. Shout out Big East. Big East should have had 2.
Remember what? Yeah, they should have had 2.
Yeah.
You remember when people were just trying to get under your and my skin in this office, telling us, the Big East ain't very good.
Well,
Played their weight in the tournament. You always knew, though.
We always knew.
We always knew.
We always knew. Yeah. Yeah, we knew. It's a great run. And really, I talked about this on Box Lunch before the tournament started, that the Big East really needed to make a push this year, given there was no Villanova factor, because Villanova's really propped up the Big East as far as tournament success goes over the last 10 years since realignment. And this has been phenomenal. I mean, you're talking about 3 teams that made the second weekend. Marquette was a 2 seed. Yeah, what a really, really good tournament for the Big East. I know Marquette didn't make it the second weekend, but still, just a good tournament overall for the Big East.
Not to be Big East stands, but it does validate. It really does. It reminds me almost, and I don't want to draw a direct comparison, but it has many parallels to when Tom Brady went away from the Patriots. There was the talk in Tom Brady's whole career before he left the Patriots that, this is Bill Belichick. Tom Brady's just a system guy. Anyone can win.
Yeah.
You throw anybody up there in New England, they'd win Super Bowls. Then he went to Tampa Bay and won a Super Bowl. So then you realize, oh, man, maybe all along it was Tom. Very similar parallels happen here in the Big East. For the longest time, it's like, man, the Big East overplayed. They got Villanova, and that's it.
Yeah.
And here in this tournament, Villanova doesn't make it. They lose Jay Wright. And Big East shows out. 3 teams in the Elite 8. So, oh, well. All right, so let's move into the next topic, which is, by the way, if you guys don't see the J bar there, we're gonna have the first ever Box Lunch chat power rankings. We got a power rankings of
Let's
those
go.
in the chat.
I have not looked at them. Casey has. I have not.
5 through 1. I think you guys are gonna like it. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. Speaking of the chat, Mr. Everett Henry has been championing this take, and that is stop with the Hoods doubt. I'm tired of it. I am tired. It just seems like sports talk minutia that the Bengals go out and get their biggest free agent signing of my lifetime, of most of our lifetimes, and get Orlando Brown, because the one thing everyone keeps telling us is how bad our offensive line was. So we go out and get the best guy on the market. We get him. And we bring him in. We go back home, sit back in the house and go, man, we just brought Orlando Brown down. And someone starts nagging, I think you guys got worse. Why? Because we lost Von Bell, Jesse Bates, Hayden Hurst, Samaje Perine, all great players. But guys, we're new here. This is the blueprint of the teams that win in the National Football League. Teams come and go. Players come and go. The Patriots were a revolving door of talented guys that would go elsewhere and wouldn't put up the same numbers. The Chiefs are doing the same thing. They're losing great players left and right, and they're still going to win. So please, as Paul says, miss me with the Bengals are worse off now. I know people are panicking because we've lost players that have helped us get to the AFC Championship game in 2 straight seasons. Players that helped us get to the Super Bowl. Like Jesse Bates, like Von Bell, like Samaje Perine, like Hayden Hurst this year. But I can promise you that this team is better than they were when they played their last game. I can promise you that. Don't worry about the tight ends. It will be shored up. It is not even April yet. The draft is not even a month away. It's a little over a month away. Free agency, though most of the guys are off the board, there's still plenty of guys to pick up. This team will be fine. Don't worry. And anybody that tells you that the Bengals are worse off than they were a couple weeks ago are either trying to just elicit conversation, elicit takes, or they're just being haters. And that's okay. You need those in this world. And guess what? The Bengals keep winning, they're going to get even more haters because that's what happens. You don't make it, unless you get the haters. Casey,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that the Bengals are worse today than they were 2 months ago? Or
No,
do you think that they're better?
No, I do not. I think they, if anything, and maybe this is the more controversial opinion, I think they kind of just actually are the same. Just the balance has shifted now towards the offense than the defense. Like, and that's what we want. We want to be an offensive team. That's the blueprint. You don't want to be known as this defensive team, which, in my opinion, that's how we should have been viewed the last couple seasons, as this huge defensive juggernaut that just always finds ways to win ball games, keep teams from scoring in the second half, all those things. But you sure have the offensive line, and, man, the potential of this offense, it's unfathomable how good this team could be if it all just works out, which Orlando Brown to Jonah Williams is, in my opinion, I see it as an upgrade. You might see some people out there say it might not be as big as an upgrade as some, but I think it's a massive upgrade. I think it's a huge step up. But I'm not at that worried level. I'm at like that 2 or that 3 on that scale that Tom said.
You do not have the panic button open.
No.
You do not have the case off the panic button, but you're in the room. You're near the door. You're near the exit. You can leave or you can take a step in at any moment.
I mean, I'm closer to the being out of that room. I guess that's the not panicking.
Right, yeah, you're out of the room. You're not even in the panic room.
I'm pretty much got the door open. I'm looking through that door.
You're like, we have that button over there, but I ain't going to press the button.
Yeah, there's no need.
No need. Darn right. Dang right, Casey. I will say this, that if you guys had this discussion earlier, if the Bengals do bring back Joe Mixon for a full $12 million, I'm still not out. Still not out, but that would be a little frustrating. But I understand that we are still falling into the thought that is the old Bengals would just bring him back and not think twice about it, which might still happen. But I like to believe that we are the new Bengals, that we do things that the old Bengals haven't necessarily done in years past.
You want to know what's really strange about the whole Joe Mixon?
What's really strange?
Figuring out the Samaje Perine thing. We're literally arguing about something that was 66 snaps out of the entire season. 66 snaps out of like 13,000 snaps. And that's what we're freaking out about.
Listen.
Some Joe Mixon can't pass block. Well, it only really mattered 66 times.
Listen, I'm not out on, I don't think I'm necessarily out on Joe Mixon as a player. I think that's a little bit ludicrous. But the value that you're getting there doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
True.
$12 million for Joe Mixon is ridiculous. I think from the get-go, we were all on board with bringing back Joe Mixon if you restructure the deal to where he's getting $4 million, right around that range is probably where it would land. It's the $12 million, the price tag. Got a little sticker shock is what you've got. When all these other teams are constantly just shifting what they're doing in the backfield. I mean, can you name the quarterback or the running backs on those Patriots teams? And in 10 years, you won't be able to name the running backs on the Chiefs teams that have won the Super Bowl. I really don't think we'll know who Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, we won't remember Isaiah Pacheco other than this run in 5 years because he'll play his way out. He'll get off his rookie contract and they'll show him the door. He'll sign another contract, go somewhere, and be okay for a year probably, and then you'll work it through because that's what happens to running backs in this league. Every once in a while, there is an exception to the rule. There's someone that just absolutely blows the doors off what you have this preconceived notion of a running back. You're seeing that with Christian McCaffrey right now, who is consistently, but he is a different running back. He's remolded what you can be as a running back. But seriously, Joe Mixon, if we bring him back, that's fine. You just can't bring him back for $12 million. That being said, anyone, just don't let it happen. Anyone wants to tell you that they're worse, just shut down the conversation. Don't even argue with them. You can't argue with that stupidity. The Bengals are better. Dear Reds fans.
Uh-oh.
They're going to love this.
Okay.
They're going to love this.
Say Dear Reds fans again.
Dear Reds fans. Did you clip it? I'm proud of you guys because you guys have fully lowered your expectations to what this Reds team is. But I'm going to ask you to do one more thing. Make it a little lower. You guys know you're going to stink this year, but I don't think you really understand what that means. You're not going to win 75 ball games? No, that's competitive baseball. You ain't doing that. Everyone's taking the over on those 67 wins. No. That ain't happening. It might happen, but it'll be right there. You ain't beating it. You ain't clearing it. It'll happen in the final week. You're still going to have these conversations in June going, God, we stink. Yeah, you're terrible. Look at your projected opening day lineup. It's bad. Look at your rotation. It's bad. Look at the bullpen. It's bad. And your coach, he's bad. I'm just telling you guys, your expectations, which were typically up here, are now here. And I'm telling you, just go a little lower. Just keep on going down. Because it's going to be an awful year. And it might be an awful couple of years. Listen, I'm a big believer that what is on the front of your jersey is worth wins, is worth runs, can show up. The Yankees could be terrible. We're talking 100 loss bad. And they'll still show up here in Cincinnati every few years. And you're thinking, oh, we're playing the Yankees. They've won 30 world championships. They deserve that. Other teams, Cardinals, they come in. Their jersey is worth a few wins. It's worth a few runs. They make less mistakes because they are laid back. And for a while, the Reds had that going for them. Their jersey was worth wins, was worth runs. Not anymore. And it hasn't been for a while. So, dear Reds fans, please, whatever you do, don't fool yourself into thinking that this is going to be a fun summer. Because it won't be. And it won't be for a while. So, that's coming from a Cubs fan. I'll see you guys at Wrigley, Southeast. All right, so let's get into what you guys have all been waiting for. I'm sure you guys are just chomping at the bit for this. This is the inaugural Boxed Lunch Chat Power Rankings. Now, I did this myself. A lot of thought went into this. We're going to do a 5-to-1, and we're going to give an awards out for who has been fantastic in the chat recently. And this is just a little bit of I don't know, what's the word? Performance review.
A report card.
Yeah, it's a report card, and just showing you who is just being lights out in the chat. So, without further ado, coming in at number 5, right here, we got Lure Up. Casey's dad gets the number 5 spot, and it's mostly because he comments on every Miami spring stream. He's
in there all the time.
He's in there. He's just watching some softball. He's just watching some baseball, and I appreciate that. Lure Up is the constant voice of reason in our chat, and it doesn't go unnoticed. So thank you, Lure Up. You're at number 5. Number 4, our very own Wojbomb, the Sir Boy Wonder. There is not a more trusted voice in news in Chatterbox Sports, in the chat, in the Discord. I do not consider it news unless it goes in Sir Bombs.
Can we talk about something real quick?
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought this up. I have gotten to a point with the Sir Bombs where I legitimately check the Discord just to make sure that I haven't missed something. I get like half of my headlines from the Sir Bombs in the Discord, and I'm not afraid to admit it.
No,
I get so,
the most trusted news in sports,
especially in March, where my entire brain. Somebody came to me with a headline over the weekend. They were like, "Did you see this?" I was like, "If it does not involve a ball going in the hoop in the last 35 days, I have not seen a thing about it, except what Sir Boy Wonder has put in the Sir Bombs thread in the Discord." So thank you, Sir Boy Wonder.
We thank you for your work. And the thing that I love, so we put in Sir Bombs on the Discord, and right away, Sir Boy took to it. Full effort, and he is the most trusted source of news in Chatterbox Sports. Maybe in the entire internet. I don't know. Number 3.
Wow.
Everett Henry. And the reason I am just loving.
Lovely picture.
That's his Twitter picture. So it's his wedding day. It's a very happy picture. Everett Henry, the reason you're number 3 is purely because I have loved the crusade you have been on for the topic that I just went through with the Bengals. Don't let people tell us that we're worse. You understand that that's bullshit, and that's what I like. Anytime someone is brought up on this show, I will get in the chat and I'll say, Everett, sick 'em, because you are on top of it. We love it. So you're at number 3. Now, these rankings are fluid. We'll move it around week to week. Number 2 in the Chatterbox chat power ranking. It's the player formerly known as Mouse Cop. And the one thing that the player formerly known as Mouse Cop does is he holds the integrity up in this show. He holds us accountable. He knows when we're just bullshitting around about the wheel or, 150 likes and reads off the show. And here I come. I'm on the show for the next 2 days on Tom's show. So you hold us accountable, and we appreciate that. We know nothing will fly by. You're the usher at the top of the stands. You're saying, let me check your ticket. Come on, let me see it. All right, you got to go somewhere else. You're up in the nosebleeds. That's what Mouse Cop does. He holds us accountable. And the best part about Mouse Cop is he's 2 different accounts. He's also Drum Hunter Fan Club. So Mouse Cop actually gets it in there.
Uh-oh.
And number 1 in the chat power rankings, Leif Erickson. Guys, go ahead and play the leader of men.
Leader of men.
He's the leader of men. Leif Erickson understands that it's less is more in this chat. Comes in very, very seldomly, and he leads us. He is the voice of reason, similar to Lure Up, but he understands that if we're going to take Vikings across the Atlantic Ocean and beat Christopher Columbus, he's got Viking blood. Leif Erickson is going to be very tough to pull off from the number 1 spot.
I think you could say he might be impossible to get up to the top.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it is. Christopher Columbus couldn't knock him off. So for at least one more week, Leif Erickson is going to be number 1, and that's going to be very tough to get off this top 5. So Lure Up, Leif Erickson, Mouse Cop, Everett Henry, and Sir Boy Wonder. We thank you for your service in this chat. Guys, what do you think of the power rankings? Anyone you think got snubbed? Anyone? Did you disagree with the rankings?
Let me see here. I'm trying to think. I think that's pretty good. I think that was a pretty good initial top 5.
Yeah.
Because we can go from there.
Yeah.
I think that was a pretty good initial top 5.
Do you think that there is someone that you would have put in the top 5 that like an honorable mention?
Honorable mentions? Seth Pryor's always in the chat.
I like Seth.
Seth always has good contributions. AJ always tries to keep us honest. Nick Kirby watches every show. Boom Shakalaka didn't get any love.
Yeah.
Boom's in there. Boom has his way to work on the list. I'm trying. I mean, I know there's probably a million people I'm forgetting because I can't think of everybody right. I'm just scrolling.
Jordan, who's a Hoosier fan, and I appreciate that. Didn't make the top 5, but Jordan.
Brian B is a big college basketball guy.
So you love that.
So I love Brian B. Boom Shakalaka has bought us lunch before, so he could have purchased his way onto this list, but he did not today.
But Boom did buy us lunch one time. That is true.
Yeah,
that's tough. He should have been in the top 5. That is a snub. That is what you call a snub. Listen, every list isn't perfect.
But again, room to grow.
Room to grow. We'll figure it out. Similar to Casey's stink list. It got better as the season progressed. But once again, Leif Erickson's going to be 1 for the time being. For the time being.
We're in the vault today?
Listen, when we put the J bar together,
I don't think we're in the vault today. I think let's just do the wheel of lunch.
It's almost time to start betting on every baseball game. I will say this. So this show is sponsored by Betfred Sportsbook. I'm looking forward to the end of the quote-unquote betting season. I know there's baseball that you can get through, but typically people mostly bet on basketball and football just because baseball is such a crapshoot. And I'll admit, I bet on too many college basketball games this winter. It consumed too much of my mind to a point where I didn't bet on any of the Elite 8 games. Didn't bet on a single one of them. So, well, Xavier. Bet on Xavier. Well, that was a Sweet 16. But
Yeah.
I didn't bet on any of the Elite Eight games.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to focusing in on just being a fan and the Cubbies back in action on Thursday.
I went 7-1 in the Sweet 16. The only one that I missed was Xavier.
What was X?
Xavier, Texas, yeah. 7-1.
Sharp. You're a shark.
I had it.
Is it sharp or is it shark?
Sharp, like a knife, sharp.
Sharp.
Sharp. Yeah.
So both. We'll just blend them together.
Yeah, it's sharp.
All right. Any suggestions for the Wheel of Lunch? In honor of Mouse Cop being in the top 5, we got to put Sonic
You
on
got to
there.
put Sonic up there.
Absolutely.
So, it was funny yesterday. I was getting lunch with somebody, and they suggested Five Guys first. And I said, no, I can't. Peanuts. And the follow-up suggestion.
I saw Adam.
Yeah, Adam. And the follow-up suggestion was, all right, let's just get Penn Station. I said, fellas, the only two things I can't do.
We got to be better.
Yeah.
Got to be better.
Don't put Taco Bell up there. Don't tease me with that. I've almost made it to Easter. Still haven't had my Baja Blast.
Was that what you gave up?
I gave up Baja Blast, and boy, it's tough.
Have you been to Taco Bell and just not got
Twice, and I told Casey I can't do it. I can't do Taco Bell without the Baja Blast. It tastes, it's terrible. Throw McDonald's up there, quick.
Oh, do we have breaking news? Breaking,
we?
Sir Boy?
Oh yeah,
Votto not playing.
Joey Votto's not playing opening day.
Is that his first opening day miss of his career? Well, since his rookie year?
Starting the season in AAA.
Okay, what we got? We got McDonald's, Penn Station, Panda, Sonic, Fatima, Gabriel, and Hannah. Huh. Put Jersey Mike's on there. We like Jersey Mike's here.
Yeah, I do Jersey Mike's.
And you know what? Throw what's the Jimmy John's. I like Jimmy John's.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then finally put Wingstop on there. Oh, God. You don't like Wingstop?
Wingstop is to me what Sonic is to you.
Why don't you like Wingstop?
I just never have had a good experience there. I haven't had many experiences though.
Okay.
So
fair enough. Spin that.
I'm gonna take off Penn Station real quick and just put Chick-fil-A because you can't go there.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Spin the wheel. Panda.
Panda. Gone.
I liked Panda.
Panda's good.
Yeah, I'd go back.
Panda's good.
Everett.
By the way, speaking of a few in our chat, Mouse Cop, we put you in the list, and you did worse than the wheel in the bracket challenge.
Uh-oh.
It's terrible.
Oh, no.
Man. The precinct. We should go to the precinct. That's where we should go Thursday. Watch the game. At the precinct. Do they have TVs? Never been.
Yeah, I think they have Wingstop or Arby's.
Man, that's a good start to the wheel. I ain't going to lie, guys. That was a good start to the wheel. I'm rooting for Arby's.
Jinxes don't exist.
They don't exist. Although that would have been legendary Gonzaga jinx.
Oh, my tweet?
You're right.
Yeah.
Would have been legendary. Guys, we've got a good list up there. What a start to the week. What a start to the week.
We do have a good list.
Chick-fil-A. So we're getting subs. We're getting sandwiches. Either one.
Fine with me.
All right. So what we got here?
Jersey Mike's or Jimmy John's? It doesn't really matter to me here. Jimmy John's.
Going to Jimmy John's. So the final thing I'll say before we go to Jimmy John's is that I put in the Discord, in the MLB league chat of the Discord, I wanted to see if you guys wanted to start a fantasy baseball league. I'm already in one, but I'd be happy to be the commissioner. I'm an honorary commissioner. Be the commissioner of a fantasy baseball league. I said if we get 10 guys to commit, I think we're sitting at 7 or 8, somewhere along that lines. If we get 10 guys to commit, I'll start a league up. We'll do the draft tonight. It just depends on if we get everybody in time. So if you guys want to be a part of the first ever Chatterbox Fantasy Baseball League, just join. Paul, can we get you on the chat, or you don't?
Yeah, no, I'll do it.
All right, so
I can't promise how committed I'd be to
That's
it.
fine.
But I will do it. Yes,
That's
I will.
fine.
I will absolutely do it. Yes.
that's fine.
Yes, I'll do it.
So I think we need 2 more guys. I think that puts us at 8. We get 2 more. We got a league going. So put in the Discord if you want to be a part of the first ever Chatterbox Fantasy Baseball League. Guys, this has been Box Lunch. It's presented by Betfred Sportsbook. It's the most useless hour of your day. Might be the most useless hour of my day, too. Congratulations to everyone in the chat power rankings. And Casey, Paul, thank you for producing this show. We'll be back on Wednesday. Actually, no, we will not. We will not have a show on Wednesday because on Wednesday we might have content all day long. We will have Off the Bench, and then at 1 p.m. on Wednesday, we've got a softball game out there in Miami, and then they have a doubleheader at 3. And then I think there's going to be Chatterbox Reds in the evening. So we might have content all day on our YouTube. So be sure to tune in. But we'll be back Friday regardless. Guys, thank you for watching. This has been Box Lunch.